Who's Hauser? Is there a house called Hauser?
Cole Hauser.
That's
We
what I
get
think. Yeah.
That'd be Rip.
Yeah.
And we get
Pretty much
confused.
the same.
We get confused a lot. What?
I was thinking it was Hauser, and I went to school with someone that was a Hoosier, and no one could ever get it right. And they're like, "What's your name?" And he's like "Who's your daddy?" I'm like, "Well, Hauser would be kind of like how's your family, I guess."
Who's your daddy and how's your family? Yeah, no, this is Cole the Snide Snyder.
Yep.
Like, I don't know what.
Yeah. No, just like Snyder.
Yeah.
That's pretty. What it sounds like.
Um,
I did get Cole Hauser into a party once in Vegas, though. Fun fact.
Heck yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
When we were at Kid Rock's, when we were at that Kid Rock party. Let me finish the story and I'll tell you. And we were out there hanging out with Kid Rock and all these Navy SEALs and everybody. And I go to the bathroom and you have to walk by the elevator. And at the elevator, there were two security guards. And they have a gentleman stopped. And I look, and that gentleman just happens to be Cole Hauser. And they say, and he goes, "No, trust me, I can be in here." And they go, "The hell you can." And I went, no, it's all right. He's with us. And Cole Hauser shook my hand. And when he looked in my eyes, I realized he has no idea who I am.
Yeah.
But he was grateful for it. Anyway, claim to
That's
fame.
awesome.
Fellow Cole here.
Fellow Cole.
I got your back.
Yeah, he didn't think it was funny as I did.
I also am a country music singer.
I too dabble. You were building a table yesterday, you're talking about?
Yeah,
what?
I was just saying how different our warehouses are. We were shipping beef yesterday, and it's in our garage. And I built a table for Laura to help with the logistics and it's just a 12-foot table, nothing special. And the UPS guy came by. He's like, "Wow, who built this? This is nice. Y'all are really doing it. You have a table now."
Business must be booming.
Y'all must be really doing good.
Do you want one of these?
Yeah. After I finish my coffee, if you don't mind.
No, I want you to drink it right now.
Double energy.
It's not how it works.
You come onto my show. You're gonna drink this ranch.
You want to
fuel.
see how fast I can talk? I'll be like one of Cole's sermons.
Is he
Cole Hatfield.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
Yeah. Oh, we know it ain't this Cole giving a sermon.
I'm ordained. Thank you.
Just because you get really mad at, you know what? Never mind. I haven't listened to Cole preach yet.
Really?
I bet it's good. I bet he's
Yeah.
passionate.
Well, there's not much he's not passionate about.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. There ain't no middle of the
No.
road lukewarm with him. It's
Yeah.
either hot or cold.
Yeah, that do everything wholeheartedly is to the Lord. Like he's got that down before he even heard it. I think he had that pretty good.
How do you rank this flank job he's doing on this calf behind us? Behind you.
It's decent.
Decent?
Yeah. I thought I taught him better, but obviously
Right.
kind of forgot something.
Yeah.
And it looks like the calf's way in the air, but Cole's not very tall, so it's really not
Yeah.
that high.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's the illusion. So yesterday was Tuesday. So you ship out your beef on Tuesdays?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Just one day a week?
Just one day a week.
Yeah. That's to ensure that maybe it'll get. Why is that?
Yeah, it's because it takes, 2 days or 1 or 2 days, so you give you enough time to be home on a weekday to get it. And then and the other thing is we don't have dry ice like at our place right now, so we got to drive to Abilene to get dry ice to come back to ship. And we normally kind of do that on Laura's going to town on Mondays, or like we'll do it after church or something at the local grocery store.
Gotcha. I only shipped beef for a short while. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed like raising. I mean, yeah, but there's just so much logistics, and if the freezer goes out, and there's just so much to consider. You got to. The shelf life of a T-shirt is much different,
Yeah.
than a side of beef, and so and I was trying to. I mean, you are too. Send out individual cuts, and which gets hard with everybody wants the ribeyes, and then they're gone.
Right.
And you really got to make money if you can sell the rest of the beef. But yeah. Anyhow, I want to do the marketing. I want to be making videos. And so that's kind of what kept me from moving forward with selling beef. But you guys have been hard at it. How many years now?
Shoot, I was just looking through some pictures the other day. I guess since is 2022 is when we got our first cattle in. And I think I said last time it was, I had this idea and that college, or we we're going looking at places, and anyway, like a professor told me that you can't do it because the consumer wants fresh, meat, non-frozen. I'm like, well, that's impossible.
Yeah.
For me, we couldn't do that anyway. I kind of set it aside and forgot about it. And then Laura really wanted to do it, and she was wanting to do grass-fed. And I was like, man, I don't like grass-fed. I'm not going to sell grass-fed.
Same.
And anyway, she was really wanting to do it for several years, and then we had a set of yearlings we were fixing to, I guess we were weaning them, and I normally would have implanted them at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm going to not implant them, and we're going to sell these and start the direct beef deal.
Yeah.
And then so I came home and was like, hey, we didn't implant the yearlings, so we're starting the direct beef thing.
Yeah.
And then Laura's like, I did want to do this really bad, but now I'm pregnant, about to have a baby, and then I just have all the easy parts, just to raise them, which is what I do every day anyway. And then feeding them at the time was on self feeder, so no input from me on that really. And then I just dumped the marketing, shipping, all the rest of it on Laura's lap right when she had a baby. So
yeah,
it was
how did y'all come up with the People's Beef as the name?
It was in well, I guess I said 2022, but it was after 2020 kind of was the deal. And I was trying to search for American products when I was buying stuff, and if I could get stuff in Texas or U.S. made or whatever. And I was like, man, I'm doing all this, and we make something like that right here. And we have trouble marketing sometimes. And anyway, just kind of the patriotic thing, just American freedom.
Just bring it all together.
Free market enterprise and all the American things.
Yeah. So it's thepeoplesbeef.com?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. I said it on another podcast. I can't remember when. And I in my head, I was like, I hope that was it. I didn't know if it was just People's Beef, but it's thepeoplesbeef.com.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were, it's the Moorhouse Ranch beef and everything. And we just kind of wanted to separate something so Laura and I could start our own business and kind of have it a little separate. And then, so we just buy the cattle at kind of at weaning, or when they would normally sell, when the ranch would normally sell them, Laura and I buy them from the ranch, and it just, they just change ownership, stay on the ranch, and then we feed them out and process them.
Gotcha. Yeah, I could see that. So some of these, the first time they leave is when they're headed to the slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, and then, sometimes you'll move cattle around, and even our own cattle will haul them to some wheat somewhere or something like that. But these, it's not, it can be a problem. Like last time I went to haul some, you got to be there at 8, and it was in Santo. It's 3 hours away. And so I was loading them at 4 in the dark, and I didn't have good security lights or anything.
And they ain't never been on a trailer.
They've never been on a trailer before, and they're weighing 1,200 pounds.
Dang.
I was really wanting to be a horseback, but I didn't want to get up early enough to saddle. I was just getting there, put the yearlings on the deal, and go. And they're you kind of get out of their way when they want to come back off a trailer when they're weigh 12.
Had you thought 14. Of that prior to that morning, or you kind of realized it once you got behind them and you start with the flag trying to get them to go on there?
I guess our other butcher was closer, or their time wasn't as early, so I would get horseback. And then the time before this one, it was really bad. But for some reason, I think Cole had preached in Guthrie, and then he stayed with me, and they went to go shoe horses or something, so I had to leave real early. So Cole helped me, and then I mean, these are fixing to be slaughtered. You know, if those processing places, you know, no hot shots, nothing protruding from the pins. If they get any bump, you know, it bruises the meat. You got to really handle them quiet and gentle. And then Cole, you know, at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's like other people at a party at midnight. He just runs in there and just starts screaming and squalling at them and hollering, "Hey, Cole, we need to be easy with these. Load them. Please take it easy." He's like, "You should have thought of that before you made me get up at 4 to load your cattle." And just chasing after them. Like, anyway, so no, I hadn't. I had the trauma from last time. I was just thinking about Cole when I was loading them. And then I was like, oh, dang, this is hard by yourself afoot.
I think it's like, I want to say Proverbs 17:15 or something. I can't remember. But it, don't greet your neighbor loudly in the morning or something like that. Yeah. And and Cole's like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, it's a scripture, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
He's like, I said, just go read it and then tell Marley thank you from me.
Let it soak in just a little bit.
Oh man.
We were in a text group, and Cole got to run in his mouth, and everybody was just giving each other heck. And I don't know where we went, but here in a little bit, I think I backed out of Brandon. It was a Brandon crew text.
I must not have been.
Oh, sorry.
I was already somewhere that day, I guess. You know.
Oops. Cole was invited.
Oh, this Cole Snyder was in the group too.
I didn't tell you about that.
Anyway, I couldn't decide brand, no brand. It's going to rain, not going to rain. And then Cole, I don't know what verse it is, but it was like a double-minded man or whatever. And I was like, "You somebody." And then kept throwing me, like we were kind of cussing each other, and then you throw scripture in there. It's like, oh, it's kind of hard to argue with that one. Because God said it, dang it. And then it was totally irrelevant, but I sent him that.
Oh, the one about being quiet in the morning?
I don't really know how to come back, but I know that you're not quiet in the morning. And it says it in the Bible that's like a curse. So
Total Feeds is what keeps the herd powered here at Radiator Ranch. And Total Equine is what I've been giving Boone for 10 years. He's 24 years old and still going strong. You can get it on Chewy.com or a dealer near you. Rock and roll denim is what Dale Brisby uses to spur his bucking bulls. I get the Reflex. Gives me the mobility I need to be the cowboy I am. So go to rockandrolldenim.com, old son.
Oh, he's so fast and loud in the morning. I stayed with him one fall at Dixon Creek, and I'd set my alarm like earlier. And he would take a shower in the morning. So I wasn't taking a shower in the morning. I set my alarm earlier. He would get up later, take a shower, still beat me down to the barn. And like, I don't know. Somehow I'd look up and he'd have his horse saddled and in the trailer before I could get pants on. I just don't know how he did it, but move fast. Anyway, so you grew up right there at the ranch?
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where my dad grew up, and I grew up, and that's pretty close to how my dad was. He went to Saul Ross and then came home, and then he said the only place he'd ever, worked other than college when he was working for Gage Holland was in 2019 when he went to work for Tongue River. Was the first job as an adult he'd had outside the ranch, which they'd neighbor with the pitchforks and get off the place quite a bit, but I'm pretty close there with him. I mean, I've been to a lot of different ranches in between, but not too long after school, back to the ranch.
How long did you go to? How long before you went to TCU? Was there time between college and TCU?
Yeah, just a second. Like I'd always wanted. I didn't want to go to college at all, and then my dad was really pushing it, and he didn't care about my grades, which I knew, so it was like check mark. I just want they won't be that great. I'm gonna put in minimal effort, but I didn't want to go to school, and anyway, but I was trying to figure out kind of a way to go around it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, maybe I'll go into ROTC or something and join the military or do something like that, or something kind of like school but not school.
Yeah.
And then I think they have that.
You
deal.
wanted to not go to school so bad. You were considering going to the military?
Well, I kind of like the military anyway.
I mean, I understand you're patriotic and everything, but if you kind of like it, I guess I could see that.
Yeah.
If you kind of,
I guess
that.
we didn't hardly ever watch. We didn't have TV very much when I was growing up, but whenever we did for a couple spells, just me and my dad would watch World War II stuff on the History Channel, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where I got it. But I've always kind of been Tom was on Good Morning America when I was like 5 or something, and they came by and videoed me just dragging my BB gun or whatever, and they're like, "What do you want to be?" And I had my leggings on, and dragging my Red Ryder BB gun or whatever it is, and they're like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I was like, "I want to be a cowboy and a GI Joe." So I don't know how old I was, but like 5 or something. So
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that bad I didn't want to go to school.
Dang.
But I got to looking at what's the program at it's TCU, I think, that you can be in the
like some type of military deal.
Yeah. Anyway,
I don't know what it's called.
that thing.
Yeah.
So that got me looking into TCU, and then I think that led me into finding the ranch management deal, and that seemed pretty cool. And I was like, I'll just go there and just because I wanted to learn the things that were relative to ranching, but I didn't want to like go to college and do all the deal. And there was a lot of people that are like, man, you got to you can't just get out of high school and go. It's
right.
Like you got to, and they were right. I wasn't ready. I wasn't used to town, or I had to adapt to just being in town. So I went to Tech first, but I'd always knew I wanted to go to TCU at some point, and I'd talked to those guys, and then when I was at school at Tech, like, man, when I get done with this, then TCU, and then I'll be good to go. And then Park told me he wanted to go, and we were we'll kind of graduate at the same time. We'll go together. And then when I graduated Tech, I went back to Tongue River, and I got pretty comfortable, and I was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm not going to TCU. Like that. Why go? I'm enjoying what I'm doing right now, and I'm not going back to school. And Park called me, and he's like, hey, man, I'm going to go interview to go to the TCU deal. I'm like, that's cool. Stay at my house on your way by. And he's like, well, you coming? I'm like, no, I'm good. And he said, well, you ought to just come to Fort Worth with me. Well, that sounds like a pretty good thing to do. I'll go with you to Fort Worth anyway. And then I don't think I ever had changed I think I was still not going. And then I just was at the building with him. Like, well, I'll go in the building with you. And then here I am getting interviewed with him. And then so it's his fault, but I'm sure glad he did it.
Yeah. Dang. And one thing just led to another.
Yeah.
How do you feel like, I mean, I'm sure you're glad you went.
Mm-hmm.
What ways do you use it now? How do you feel it applying to your everyday life?
Man, just the budgets and stuff on all the different little things that you do. Like there was someone who went through the program, and they said, man, I do a break even on my salads, like the croutons and the cheese and the ranch dressing. Like I do a break even on my salads, like you would do on a set of yearlings or something.
Yeah,
the same thing you learned on a set of yearlings, I use on a salad.
For his crew or for him?
No, he has a restaurant.
Oh, gotcha.
Shoot, I can't think of his name right now, but that owns Riata.
Gotcha.
I can't believe I can't think of his name.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dang. That's
so.
neat.
Anyway, so for the people's beef, or for farming, obviously we learned a little bit about farming, but you talk to a farmer about buying some hay or something, and they'll be like, well, man, it just costs so much, and this costs so much, and I got to have this amount. And when they're going through the numbers, they're just saying it costs a lot. I'm not saying everybody, but just kind of in general, and they're just kind of saying things cost a lot, but they're not really putting it down. They don't really know their cost. And then, I mean, I guess that was the main thing, is just to know your cost and then to be real about your cost. Because we'd go to all these different field trips, and they would tell us their break even or something like that, or how much they're making on a cow. I was like, dang, you're doing way better than anybody else. How in the world did you do it? And we consider all of our costs. And one place wouldn't consider their own pasturage, or like the land they were grazing on. They wouldn't count that against their cattle, or they wouldn't figure interest or this or that. And there's always something that someone is not thinking of. And anyway, they really push to make you think of all the opportunity costs and everything.
Dang.
So.
Yeah, I could see that. Growing up, my dad had gone through it, and then later, like, there was a point in my life where it was either time to go through it or not. And at that moment, my dad was alive, and he had been through it, and my girlfriend had been through it, and I was like, well, I'll just ask one of them.
Yeah.
And well, then my dad died, and I was like, dadgummit, that was and so anyhow, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, there's several people like that, or even the other way around. Some adults will send their kids, and that way they can lean on their kids, so they don't have to go through the deal.
Yeah.
But and then the other thing is, I don't know. Park picked up on the marketing, and I'm glad he did, because I didn't as well, and I got to lean on Park for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I picked up on I don't know why, I butted heads with the professor on this. Maybe that's the reason, because it stuck in my head. But on grass and stuff like that, that's the thing, like grazing and stalking rates and different grasses and stuff like that's the thing that when I came, I guess maybe that's it more, is I'm always thinking about our land, because that's the thing that's the most long term, and you're really grass farmers more than, when I came home, I was a cowboy, and none of the other things really came to mind, especially when I was at Tongue River before I went to school. I was just thinking about riding my colts good, doing a good job flanking the calves, and being a good hand and hustling.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I didn't know if we weaned in the fall or in the spring, or I just, whatever we're supposed to do, I'm going to be there and be quick and do a good job.
Yeah.
And anyway, but it all boils down to your soil and the grass, and we was at a deal the other day, and kind of the limiting factor for most any ranch is water, and the better your grasses are, the more water you can retain. So all this rain we've been getting here lately, most of it runs off and fills our tanks, which is awesome. But like after an inch or so, it just starts to run. And so if you had better cropland or ranch land, you'd start holding in more of that water, and instead of letting it run off.
So talking about like how you can get a little too heavy on the cowboy side rather than maybe call it the efficiency side or the management side, is the opposite a danger too?
Oh yeah.
Like,
I mean, not for me, because I just have the tendency, or I don't think for me, but yeah, there's definitely
you can pencil your way out of something.
And just the guy that just is managing these employees and doesn't know anything about their jobs, or doesn't know anything about the cattle, and from our area, and those big ranches all kind of have a set way of doing things that are different from other places, and we're, whatever you want to call it, hung up on the way we do things. A lot of it's based off of efficiencies. I mean, we're going to gather this 10,000 acre pasture and brand 150 to 300 calves before lunch. You got to do it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are a manager, and say you just think that that's trying to be cowboy, or that's just it is a culture, but say that's just some silly culture, and try to just do it off the books or whatever, you're missing out on. So you need to go get boots on the ground and hands on and learn.
Yeah.
Learn some of that. So yeah, I mean, it's just like anything. Just
Can't necessarily.
Too much isn't good of anything.
I want to back up to tech. Man, it's just were you on the ranch horse team when Chris was there?
No, he was. It was like 2 years before I was on the team that he was there.
Okay.
I was in high school, and my cousin Joanna, she's closer than in age. She's a lot closer to me than my sibling, so she's almost more like my sister. And she was going to Tech and go on the ranch horse team when I was still in high school, and I was on the horse judging team in high school, and we would come and do a deal there at Tech, and Chris would coach on us. And I hate to say this, but I was up in the stands talking or doing something, and Chris got on to me, like singled me out of everybody up there. He's like, Moorhouse, you better be quiet and start paying attention. Anyway, I hated that. I like that guy get on to me like this. And anyway, obviously Chris was awesome, and I did get to and then I wasn't around him on a ranch horse team, but after TCU, like the first thing I did was go to the Bells, and when Zach was there, and worked with Chris, and so yeah.
What year was that?
I guess that was 15.
Okay.
Yep.
Sweet. So when you talk about going back to when were you at Tongue River?
My dad moved or took the job in my senior year, so 2009.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah. What made him take the job there so late? I mean, like he'd been with this family place. I mean, like,
right.
I guess they wanted him there, and he was knowledgeable. But
yeah,
you know, if he hadn't been off the ranch in so long, just kind of want to go do something different. But
yeah, like I don't know for sure, but like in the 90s and early 2000s is when the ranch was at its peak or whatever, and it was. I almost looked at it before I came just to remember, but there was a biography about the ranch for a rodeo deal, and the Moorhouse Ranch never owned just a whole lot of acres, but we operated a whole lot of lease country, and it seemed like that it was pretty comparable to the Sixes or Pitchforks, the amount of cattle we were operating. I mean, and then just a whole lot of farmland. Anyway, big deal, and then just markets and stuff kind of whittled on us a little bit. And like I said, I say us, I was little. I mean, I had no involvement, but whittled on us. And then I think the last thing was, I guess it was 2011 was a bad drought. I guess 2008 was a pretty good drought. And we had a place that didn't have good water anyway, so we had no water, lost that lease, and then anyway, just kind of got down pretty small and sold most of the remuda. And I remember I woke up and Sammy Cockrell was there at daylight at her house and backed his trailer up, and we just loaded. We just lost this one lease, and that camp man had to go, and so we got all of their horses and stuff. And I'd only rode colts, and as soon as I ride them, they're gone. And I thought, man, I'm gonna get some like aged horses. I was excited to get these, and Sammy came and backed up and just loaded them on like cattle, and left us with like 6 horses. And I was like, dang, I wish Tom would have told me we were fixing to liquidate. And anyway, it was kind of around all that time. I guess Bubba Smith had just left Tongue River to go to Dixon Creek. And so Millard didn't have a guy, and he was either wanting to train someone he had already up to be the manager or to hire someone. And Tom had leased Tongue River before and had a relationship with Millard. Millard's the owner of Tongue River. And Millard was getting Tom to go around with him and look for someone for a couple months. and then I guess this conversation got brought up in the pickup, like, well, you want to do it, or
Yeah.
you know, and I was fixing. My mom had cancer, and so there was some bills with that, medical bills, and then I was fixing to start college, and so it was, and the ranch was not doing great, and so it was a good financial thing for my dad, and so the kind of idea was, we'll get Gage through school, and I'll get you started with a new manager, and then I'll come back to the ranch, and so that's how it happened. Long answer.
Well, no, I mean, I knew your dad went over there, and as I was asking it, I realized how personal of a question that was. I didn't mean to get all in the business of the ranch, but
no, that's fine. I mean, that's just how it was. That's what happened.
yeah. But I think of that time when he's there as just being like, I can imagine whether you were a camper or day worker at Tongue River during those years, that it was just probably a pretty cool experience to get to just, be there with Tom and get to learn from him. And yeah. What were those years like?
They were good. I was just laughing because thinking about, I listened to Stone. I was sowing hay grazer the other day, and so I was listening to podcasts because I was pretty bored. And I was listening.
Yeah. Not because you're interested.
Oh, I'm sorry. What? No. I was so bored. I listened to yours.
That's how bored you were. How bored were you?
That was bad. Anyway, listening to Stoney's deal, and he was saying how he couldn't stand Tom's slow lope or his trot deal.
Yeah.
And I remember that Tom always had that slow lope, but he had a horse at Tongue River that he could just, I mean, it was like you just didn't get anywhere lope. Like it was almost a walk. And so everybody else is just used to leaning up over your saddle horn and trotting and covering some country. And Tom just had this little tiny lope. And I just remember like Stoney just looking back at the rest of the guys in the jig line, like, what are we doing? When are we going to get somewhere? And I was the same way. I was like Cole. I was riding a colt and wanting to go, and Tom, whether he's going fast or slow, and he's leading the crew, like he never looks back, like to see if people are still following him or if someone got bucked off or anything. Like he's just forward focused.
Yeah. What was it like learning to ride, like as a kid, and learning to be a cowboy with Tom Moorhouse as your dad?
He, everybody, especially from town or something, like wants to know, when did you first start riding or whatever, which I don't remember that, but I think I might have said this on the last deal, but I think I'd ridden by myself probably, I know I had. My dad would tie the reins in a knot, to make a single rein instead of split reins, and I'd go around the arena or the house compound or whatever. Well, one day we were going to go just right there close, and we're with the crew. Like I said, my dad never looks back, and so he got on his horse, and I guess he helped me get on mine, and then he just left to lead the crew, and he didn't tie my reins in a knot, and so I just had both reins, and I was just like, he just threw me off. I didn't know what to do, and I'd pull my horse head, and we'd go in a circle this way, and then we'd go in a circle this way, and he's just gone, like at the gate, like going through the gate, and then one of the single guys comes trotting back and ties my reins in a knot and slaps my horse on the butt and put me in the line.
How old were you?
I don't know, but not very old.
Young enough that they were tying your reins in a knot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dang.
But he's always kind of a daredevil about like going off rough stuff, or like he would never give up on a colt or something, like to say one's like, oh, he's just he's an outlaw, he's never gonna make a good horse, let's just go sell him. Like that, you couldn't do that. You're gonna ride him, like he's gonna get rode.
Yeah.
And whatever he's doing, flipping, or maybe not flipping so much, but we're gonna put some miles on him and trot it out. So, and then going off rough stuff. So when I was little, I was always, he took care of me, but we'd always jump a creek. When you're a little kid, that's the worst thing, because It's like jump the creek, fall off, jump the creek, fall off. Like, I know it's 6.5, and it happens every time as I fall off and I get the air knocked out of me. But anyway, there was a lot of that. And then we're getting, if there was something running off, we were behind it through the brush or however. And I just remember getting left with like one of the young single guys that I thought were the real cool guys, the bronc riders and all this. And I'd get left with them like, oh man, this got to be real bad, because I've been with my dad, and then now I'm with the real cool guys, and I can't imagine what this is going to be like. And then they would take care of me and just really ease around all this stuff. I'm like, well, that wasn't near as bad as I thought.
Yeah. It turns out your dad was the one that was the the renegade, the wild man. Did he did you, I guess I'm just wondering, did you get the feel of just the old school mentality that he had? I guess that was kind of a way that you got to get introduced to it, when you were like, you could see the younger guys, like did you know you were kind of, when did you pick up on that you realized you were with somebody who knew a lot of things for a long time?
Oh man, I don't know, because I was just, that's all I knew for so long. It was, I guess kind of at Tongue River was the first time I'd been around another crew that kind of operated different. Shoot, maybe even out of college before I just really realized how much different I was raised than most everybody else.
Yeah, that, to me, that just seems like
I just thought that's how, I didn't know it was different. I just thought that's what it was. But yeah, we were definitely operating different than most folks. Just like I went when I was maybe 17 or something. It was the first time I went to help the sixes, and they would have, there was a day they would gather, the day it was Croton. They would gather the day before and then brand the next day. And at the time, they weren't calves. They were like yearlings. They weighed 5, 4. They were big,
huge.
Yes,
yeah,
especially for a high school kid. And we would just I don't even know if we'd get on a horse. Like, we just get in a pickup, and you would flank like every 6th calf. There were so many people, and you would be barely have your air by the time you got back to your 6th one.
Yeah,
and they had the maintenance guys, and like everybody was helping brand. Anyway, I didn't know, quote unquote, how to flank calves, especially the way they did, and I was getting in the way and not doing things right, and had no idea. I was like someone who hadn't ever cowboyed before, it seemed like, flanking with them, because like I said, they gathered the day before, and then they sat there and they branded 400 head at once. Yeah. And it was this repetition efficiency thing. And the way I grew up was these leases that were real, in the 60s, it's not flat, but there's not a whole lot of brush or anything right now. And then where I grew up was these lease countries had no maintenance on them, and it was real brushy, and the Wichita River or the Brazos River ran through them, and they were hard to cross and all that. And no bad fences and silly cattle. Well, you just kind of go out there and gather 25 head and take them to the horse lot or horse pens that you had the wagon set up in, and then just kind of do that, maybe 10 or 15. You're just making little bitty jerks at a time, gathering them, and then you'd only brand, 50 would be the most we'd ever brand. So we didn't have this same mentality of working, because you didn't ever really get in a rhythm that long. It was more about the gathering than the pen work.
Yeah.
It was all the work, all the time you spent. You'd spend a week gathering a pasture, a couple pastures, and then brand 50 calves, because we just spent so much time gathering these silly cattle in rough country.
Yeah.
And so it was way different. And then we had the wagon there, and you'd go in the morning, and you're at the wagon, so there's no reason to just sit around in the evening. In the evening, you'd go do another little deal in the afternoon, versus a bigger place, they'd haul in the pickup trailer to the place, like to the pasture, and then gather it to the pen where the pickup is again, and then drive the pickup to go eat lunch at the headquarters. We would, versus what we were doing, you would trot to, miles in the dark to get to the pasture, and then drive the cows several miles back to an area. It's just totally different setup.
I bet it didn't take you long to get it learned, though.
No.
Croton, I mean, that's a huge pen of cows to learn on.
Oh, when I went to go help the other places,
right.
shoot, I'm still trying to figure it out. But I just remember they, the thing is that they don't like you to flip the rope over your head if you're on the hillside,
mm-hmm.
and
kind of push it.
Yeah, no, I mean to strip the rope before you sit down.
Right. Well, but I mean,
okay.
yeah, I mean just kind of like
Right.
put your hip against it, strip it, and hand it off.
And so I didn't know that was a thing. I thought, but anyway, I think it was Mike Gibson was the first guy, and I don't know who was dragging. Maybe it wasn't Mike, but I went to flip it over my head, and they took off and just crunched me under it. And I thought, dang, something must have happened to their horse. That must have been a mistake. and then they just kept happening to me. I was like, man, they can't handle their horse very well back there because they keep jerking me down. And anyway, someone finally, I'm sure the whole crew was getting a good laugh out of it. But they're like, hey, you need to take the rope off first.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't hold this. Like, you got to hold the leg with one hand to use the other one to take the rope off. My fingers only go halfway around this thing's leg. Like, I can't do it. They're monsters.
Yeah.
Like, I'm already getting beat up.
Yeah.
Anyway, it took a while.
Man, it's some guys are so good at it.
Yeah.
Like getting that rope stripped off before it's just all one fluid motion. Kai, I can picture Kai right now. And Bones. Yeah. I just know Bones would just roll his eyes if I had to flank with him. Like, it's just going to take me so much longer.
It was hard to learn from those guys because it's like the calf was going down and then the rope is gone.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know what to watch because I didn't even realize it happened. They just, it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah. But they, like I said, those guys would, they would either pop you down, or if you didn't have it off, they turn around and they're going to get another one, they would just drag the calf back over the top of you.
Yeah. Oh, just not stop.
Yeah, just I come in, the calf should have been flanked there. I make my little circle, I go back in. You still got him on the rope. That's your fault. He's getting jerked over the top of you. You should have had him had the rope off and calf flank.
I've heard of old timers doing that, but
yeah. No, well, that was the end. I mean, that happened like that one time, and anyway, that doesn't happen as much anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's just more. Now it's just more of a ride up, stop, look back, disgruntled look.
Disgruntled look.
Y'all having trouble?
Yeah.
Especially if they're brought by 2 feet. If they're brought by one leg or an offside leg, then I feel like the guy roping should probably extend a little more grace, especially on a big calf. Have you ever been up north or like to Head and Heel deal?
Yes, sir. Yeah, when we made a couple of different tours, like on Lonesome Dove, that's a direction, not a place, but up north. and I guess where I was weaning every time I went, but when we went with Park and that all that crew, we had one day that we went to another place, and we were going to use half their guys, half our guys doing it their way, and then vice versa doing it our way. And
dang,
it was pretty cool. Whoever came up with it was neat. But so we started their way, and there's like best I can remember, there was like 4 holes to bring a calf to, so you would head them and heel them. But these calves, like some of them still had a navel on them. I mean, it was just ridiculous to heel them. I mean, to head and heel. If they were big, we'd do that if they're some maverick bull in the herd, But these were like, baby. Some of them.
Baby.
Anyway, they'd have you know, what surprised me is a lot of those guys didn't use like cool loops or anything. Like they'd have big loops, but they wouldn't throw like whatever you call them, Del Cientos and maybe a hula hand or something. But they weren't doing cool tricks necessarily. It was just regular heading and heeling, but with giant loops. And anyway, we did it their way, and I think Trace Campbell and maybe Brady Clark were the ones dragging with them, and they were doing quick work at the other guys' deal. Like they'd come in there, just heel them and come in quick, and anyway, then we flip flopped it, and it was at least twice as fast when we drug them.
Yeah.
In
Even with 4 holes.
Oh yeah,
you do 4 holes. Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting. There was one guy there that helped Poison Spider on and off, and he was a pretty cool guy, and he was buckaroo type guy, and he wasn't real braggadocious about it, but we'd have, it seemed like those pens were big or something, but there'd be a pretty large area or between the herd and the flankers or whatever. So when you'd have those calves run between the flankers and the herd out there, that, you know, most of the time you should probably just not try to rope them because it's kind of a Hail Mary. But he'd have a giant loop, and just that thing would just roll across the ground forever, and you'd think it would have it would have died way early, but that thing would just kind of like a little wagon wheel out there and just catch the calf. He was pretty good at it.
Yeah.
But he would do the big loop and use it efficiently, like in the places it was supposed to be used.
Is that the trip that your dad referenced when we talked about that on his podcast?
So that lease was like 3 or 4 years, and then we'd helped the Sixes at least 2 years before. But yeah, Poison Spiders, Tom.
But I'm saying, like, I guess that trip that you're talking about where y'all split.
Oh, right, yeah.
Was he with you?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and that's probably the one he was referencing.
Yeah, and then in 2011 was the drought, and that's when everybody started looking for other leases, and that's when cattle started moving north, or all over, but particularly north. And then in 2012, when it started really taking place, is when my mom died, and so my dad got with John Welch and with the Spades and Joe Leathers with the Sixes, and just spent 6 months being on the wagon, traveling, going to these places to kind of stay busy, you know, after my mom had died. So he might have been thinking about one of those times that I wasn't in on.
Oh, gotcha.
I bet it was, actually, because they hated it. They didn't like. They're like, I think they, you know, it was their cows on this other person's place, and I think Tom or someone came in there like, hey, this is over. We're gonna start dragging them to the fire. They couldn't handle it.
So that must have been the time when the first time I came to the wagon and your dad was there. Would have been
in
around
12?
Well, it wasn't in 12. It was a couple years after that, but he was there the entire works.
Yeah, I think that was like 14 or 15.
14.
Yeah. Because I think you came to did you come to the Bells?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I went to the Bells that same year.
Yeah. So I went to the Bells, and then you showed up, and then I came to the Sixes, and then you showed up.
Yeah.
Because you did the same thing to someone at the Bells as you did Boots. One guy showed up in the
Brian
morning.
Clark.
Yeah.
And then Ron
Lewis.
kind of Ron Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember Boots was like, I like that old boy. He's pretty all right. And then the next day he's like, who's that guy over there with long hair? And I said, what's he doing here? Arrogant son of a.
Yeah, I told Brian Clark, like, he's like, you're new, I don't guess we've met. And I was like, yeah, I'm Dale Brisby. I'm a John Malone hire. And I just rode off.
I bet he loved that. Yeah.
Oh man,
I bet that didn't settle well.
I just turned around and rode off. But yeah, I remember your dad being there because I want to say we were in like Hackberry or something, something big and wild, and I was next to your dad. I don't think it was Big River because that was close enough to the road. I would have remembered that. But regardless, anyway, I just remember being super nervous. And it was like my first time to be there anyway. And so I was nervous about roping. And the rigging I had this old saddle. And we got to the pins. And my rigging had started to rip. And Reggie walked up while I was loosening off my saddle, and I showed him, and he was like, "You better not rope today." And I was like, "Whew, good."
I think I remember that.
Yeah. And so we get to, I was like, "I'll be your, top hand flanking. I'll flank all of them." And anyway, well, about midway through it, your dad goes, Dusty was roping. And Tom, you want to rope? And he was like, "Dusty, my shoulder hurts," or he told Reggie or something. But I got a young horse I'd like somebody to drag on. I want to see how he does.
Yeah.
And Dusty goes, "Well, Dale's horse, Dale can't. His saddle's ripped, so why don't?" And he was like, "That'd be all right." So here I am, like, not only is it was the first time I'd ever been there, and I wanted to get let the dust settle and get my feet wet, but no, now not only am I dragging, but I'm using Tom Moorhouse's horse, and I don't remember how it went. I caught some and missed some, whatever, but I remember that moment, like, dadgummit, Dusty.
Dang it. Yeah.
But anyhow, it was neat getting to be next to him and be around him. I remember riding up to him to bump him, and he was staring off, and golly, his next man was so far, and he's like, "Dale, I'm trying to find my next man." And I was like, "Right there, I believe." And he said, "All right," and he rode off, and it was brushy and thick, but it was super cool that he was there and, doing the deal. And then your teepee your teepee poles were poles out of rods out of a
Windmill sucker rods.
Windmill sucker
The wood
rods.
ones, yeah.
And I thought that was so bad to the bone.
I did too at the time. And then I wanted, everybody had metal ones, and we'd been in a lightning deal one time. And I was like, that's just like a grounding rod for, just be like one of those fly zappers. Like, I'm just in this little V. Like, I mean, when that stuff's cracking and it's not like, oh, it's kind of bad, I think I'll quit being a cowboy and go to the house. Like, no, this is the house. Like, you can just go stand outside, or you can stay under these two little metal things. And so it was at that point I decided to go with a wooden sucker rod.
Yeah.
But they didn't work. They broke. I tried them like 3 different times.
Yeah, the wind got them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They snapped.
Yeah, one of them a crack. I remember
back to metal.
A crack started going, and you started taping it.
Oh yeah.
But it was cool because you put the joint in the middle, so you could break it down,
Shorten them.
and shorten them up, and whenever you were packing them in and out.
Yeah, that was at the Bells. I remember that.
Yeah.
They cracked.
Yeah, you had to tape them. But
and then they just like break and then come down through your tent and just like a javelin in your bed.
Yeah, so which one's worse?
How did he die?
How did he died in his sleep?
He was impaled. So what was your time like at Tongue River?
It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like I said, it was different, and at home we had these different camps and camp men, but they were like in different counties. They're not like they were all in different counties. So they're way off, and if you went to go help a guy, I mean, you didn't get together very often. But at Tongue River, everything was kind of centralized, and so they'd get together in the evenings and team rope and had all the horses were there, so people would come in and ride, and so I got to be around Stoney and the different guys quite a bit, and it's just totally different country, and it was fun. I had a cookhouse, and growing up I lived in the bunkhouse outside the house, and then when I got to Tongue River, I stayed at the bunkhouse, but there was a cookhouse next to it, so I took advantage of all the meals and everything.
Who was somebody else, some other just influential men that in your trail of being a cowboy besides your dad that you got to interact with that you can look back on and be grateful for?
Man, when I was little, Fro Walden was always there, and he was the best teacher because, my dad or just anyone, when stuff's going wrong, they just go to hollering, and then you're like, oh shoot, I don't really know, and I'm just kind of getting yelled at right now, and then it happens, and then he's always in the lead or on point or somewhere away from me, and so I wasn't really getting a lot of feedback necessarily because he was on to the pens, on the weigh 'em, on the loading the trucks, on the settling up with the guy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And but Fro would always get on to me about stuff, and when I was little, and he'd holler at me or whatever, and then we'd be stuck driving some cows down to wherever for a long time, and I'd get in the back, and he'd come back there with me. I'm like, oh dang it, like I've been trying to avoid him ever since that incident, and now here we are together for like an hour. I got to ride by him, and I'd kind of not be making eye contact or whatever, and he knew that he had me, and he'd come over and he'd put his hand on my leg. I'm like, dang it. And he said, Gage, yes sir. He said, you want a little advice? I'm like, not really. And then he would, I'd be kind of pouty or whatever, and he would say, don't fry bacon naked. And it would break the ice and make me laugh, and then he would say, the reason I was frustrated earlier is because I was trying to do this and you weren't backing me up or whatever. And he would follow through and tell me what I wasn't doing right,
Yeah.
And so he was his big influence growing up. And then my cousins Lottie and Joanna, like I said, they were kind of like my sisters. We showed in 4-H, and my uncle Rayburn Layton used to show cutting horses a little bit. And he helped us in the round pen and showed us just horsemanship. Tom would always we'd start colts, and there'd be someone kind of running it, kind of like a clinic, but just like with the crew, and like Ron Redford or Mike Seago or someone, or they would kind of be running it and starting all the colts, and we were just the test dummies. And my dad would facilitate that. And be like, you boys need to pay attention. And then he couldn't ever hang around and watch. Like, he wanted everybody to learn it, but he couldn't sit and watch. And he'd go on to the next deal. And but my uncle Rayburn would come, and he was kind of retired from the feedlot and feed yard, and he'd come and coach on us on those horses to get ready to do cuttings, or what we were really doing was team pinning.
Yeah.
And then I hate to give him credit, but my other uncle Cotton would really helped us a lot on herd work. There's, very few people have very much experience cutting cattle. I mean, just in the pasture, working a herd. I mean, there's some that have cutting experience, but it's totally different than working the herd.
Yeah.
And we were always throwing some yearlings up in the corner and cutting some mavericks or bulls out, or throwing cows up and cutting dries, or with just a whole lot of holding up outside and not so much pin work, especially with my dad. Like, any chance you could not use the pins and do it outside with the crew, we would be doing that. But my uncle lived at East Camp, which is about 5 miles from the house, and we had yearlings around there, and we'd throw them up and cut out pink eyes or something. And it was always winter and cold, and we weren't enjoying it, and it was me and Joanna and Lottie. And Lottie was so young, she was just kind of just sitting on her horse, and her horse be falling asleep. And it's funny now because she like competitive horseman, but at the time she was a little girl, and Joanna was a year or so older than me, and she was tougher than I was, and we'd be out there in the cold. But my Uncle Cotton he'd get on to us, and I always thought he was aggravating. He's always just chewing on us and always getting on to us, and like, man, just never can do this right and can't ever get it right. But I learned a lot from him on working herd, and some people when they're cutting something out, some people want you to dip in there and help them to get that animal out, and then kind of what I would side on. Maybe there's a time for that. For most often, your job is to turn the bad ones back, and the other guy's job is to bring the good one out.
Yeah.
You just get out of the way. So when you step in, you're taking the other guy's job of being the cutter, and so the cutter should do the cutting, and the herd holder should do the herd holding.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's some things I learned from Uncle Cotton. And
I'm usually the one they pick to go back and hold the drives.
Hold the cuts.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Well, Buster Welch.
Dale, you don't mind sneaking back here, do you?
Buster Welch pastured some cows on us for a little bit, and he wouldn't let you throw them in a corner. He would make you just hold them up out and away from a fence somewhere out in the open.
Oh, wow.
And we wouldn't have like enough people to hold them in the corner, much less to hold them out in the open. And
right.
So it wasn't no just throw your leg over the saddle horn and we're going to be cutting and this is kind of boring. It was you're holding herd, like really having to hold it.
Yeah.
And then I'd be holding the cuts like you said. And there was one day I was on this horse that wanted to run off, and I'm holding cuts and he's just wanting to run. Well, when you do it in a circle, they'll just cut them out. It'd be ideal if they cut them out towards the herd holder, but they'll just cut them where he wants to, and you got to go around and pick them up. And so this horse just running off, and I'm running over there, grabbing this one, running over there, grabbing this one, and just like never stop moving. We got done. And I guess it's Buster Welch's deal to label somebody as top hand of the day. And I don't know how old I was, like 14. And he's like, well, that Gage, he's really made top hand today. He was hustling. I was like, no, my horse just wouldn't ever stop. I wasn't hustling. I just couldn't control my horse.
Oh, that's funny. So, man, I mean, that's a pretty legendary name too. Buster Welch. Not to mention you're on a podcast with Dale Brisby.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, got to work with Dale Brisby.
Be on a podcast with the Pope the way I'm going.
So so you're at Tongue River, you went back to Tongue River for just a stint, you said, between Tech and TCU. What'd you do after TCU?
Yeah, just right after I ran into you at the Bells, and then Reggie called and he said that they were going to take the wagon out on the sixes for the first time in a long time, and wanted me to come if I knew of anybody else. And Brad Good was just had a little place he was staying at and riding some colts, and asked Brad if he wanted to. And then Coley Flowers came and we did that. And I guess that whenever we got done branding, we went to North and South Dakota and Nebraska and did that deal. And I kind of would bounce back home, but it was like nothing was going on there. It's like, well, we're not branding, we're not weaning, we're not doctoring yearlings, so I'll go help some other ranch for a while.
Was that the year that Park and Cutter were there, or was that the next year?
We're at the
sixes?
I don't think I worked around Cutter very much at the sixes.
It must have been the next year.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. We might have been there at the same time at one point, but I don't think I was there very much with him.
Anyway.
Cutter Patterson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyhow, I was just trying to remember. Yeah. But going back to your deal, so you go up north for a little bit, back and forth, and then
like I said, I don't know why, but like now I feel like I don't have time to do anything, but just coming back home is like, man, this is kind of a boring place. Just cows are out grazing, and I don't I don't farm and I don't really want to hang around here. There's nobody here and it's kind of boring, and I'll go somewhere else. And then one winter, I guess maybe it was that first year, but Wesley Welch was managing the spades, and he asked if I could find some wheat country to pasture some yearlings on, and so I found some and started running the spades yearlings for just a little bit, and that was kind of the first of me kind of settling back home, I guess.
I hope you're enjoying a ranch fuel as you're listening to this episode of Rodeo Time. Use code DALE on ranchfuel.com for 15% off, old son. Drink up and use code DALE on ranchfuel.com. RodeoTime.com is the only website that should exist because it's the greatest apparel line that has ever existed. So go there now to get a t-shirt, a hoodie, a cap, a vest, whatever it is you need. Go to RodeoTime.com, old son. How was that?
It was fun.
Yeah.
I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I mean, I could take care of the cattle and all, but I just remember the first time we went to ship. I wasn't used to using portable pens or anything, and I don't know how many yearlings. I bet that place probably holds 250, 300 yearlings, but I don't know if it's me or the landowner, but for some reason I felt like we needed like 5 sets of portable pens. And we got all those. And then I had, often, or now I hardly ever get enough people, but most times you don't have just a huge crew for that, mainly because everybody's doing it at the same time and you can't get enough people. But I called everybody I knew. I had like 15 people to help load these yearlings. Ray Bradley and Andy Paul Jones and just all sorts of people from Knox County area. And I was like, well, I kind of based everything off of like how we did at home. You get up and you eat breakfast, feed the crew breakfast, and then you go do the thing, and then you feed the crew lunch, which isn't necessarily the yearling deal. But so we went to eat breakfast, and we were sitting in there, and it was getting daylight, and I was like, this was a bad decision. We should be loading trucks right now, and people are still eating. And then we get to the field, and when you gather those fields, you make a wing to the portable pens with your pickups and trailers. I mean, it'd be almost impossible to do it without it. And I just pull into the field with my big old convoy of 10 pickups and trailers behind me and go to get on my horse. And Ray Bradley comes up there and he's, man, it's none of my business, but do you want us to take our rigs down there and make a wing? And everybody had just everybody had got out of their trailers, taken their halters off, bridled them up, got on their horses. I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. Everybody load back up and let's go make a wing. And anyway, I learned a lot.
Yeah, freaking yearlings are just so wild.
Yeah.
Golly.
The pins started to fold over, and then the loading chutes, the wall started to break off of it. And I ran up there like, stop. We got to chain this together so everything doesn't fall apart. And Ray Bradley was back there and he said, nope. He was like, let's keep going before it falls apart. And like, just bring them faster, and just kept rolling them through. And that was I didn't think at the time, but that was the right decision, just to hurry up before it all fell apart.
Yeah. Dang. That's cool. I haven't seen Ray Bradley in a long time. When I met Ryan Wakefield, a guy hired him, and I can't remember who else. I know Wakefield because that's when I met him, but golly, what was that other guy's name? But anyhow, it was like back around that time, like 14-ish. So, but anyhow, where is Ray now?
Man, I don't really know. I think around Stanford area.
Oh, gotcha.
I haven't seen him in a long time either.
So what?
I'm sure I'll see him this weekend. But
how long were you doing the yearling deal?
well, I'm till last year, I guess, not for the spades, but I've done that on and off till last year, and then this I was helping a guy taking care of some yearlings, and he had another guy that would feed them and stuff, and the guy that ran the feed truck got killed, and so he had to replace him. And then when he replaced him, he replaced me too. But no, another guy took that deal, and then so I just came back to the house. And then like this year, we didn't have any wheat, so I had one load of yearlings.
Yeah.
But I started this little grow yard deal, so I've been running a feed truck and sowing, and
Yeah. Having to do some farming.
somehow or another, I end up still being busy.
I don't know. It seems like a lot of cow hands have, I'm not saying nobody stays there, but because obviously people stay there, but yearlings, horse training, feedlots.
Yeah.
Like everybody's kind of got like, at least they pass through there, but
Yeah. Or like a welder or something, like,
yeah.
or they'll go, I mean, it's kind of a cow calf deal would be the most, everybody strives to have a camp job, but it's probably the lowest paying position.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then a feed yard or taking care of yearlings would be, you have the potential to make the most money.
Yeah.
And, but it's pretty easy to get burned out too.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess there's camp jobs that a guy can get burnt out on, but it just seems like if you talk to somebody that in the cowboy world that's maybe been doing a job for 28 years, 32, like it's most likely something to do with the cows and calves. But I don't know. I do have a lot of respect for the guys that stay in, like, for instance, the horse training game.
Yeah.
For just decades, But being able to just stay passionate about, with a job that can sometimes get monotonous.
Yeah. You're talking to Stoney about it, and he said like his dad could do that.
Right.
And when I was at Tongue River, I started like 7 colts, and then maybe another bunch of 7 or something like that for a few different summers, and that was it. So
Yeah.
I was pretty good on riding horses just consecutively like that.
The most I had at once outside horses was like 5. It was either 5 or 6, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I guess I get distracted too easy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, me too.
The reason I moved here was to Dr. Yearlings, and Cole and I were rodeoing together, and he said, which is the same thing people said about a boat, the greatest day of your life is when you get it, and then the greatest day of your life is when you get rid of it.
Right. Yeah.
And it's the same thing with yearlings. At least it was for me.
Oh, yeah.
But it's super fun to go back and do and help guys with every now and then. Like you drop in for a day or two when they got something sick.
Yeah, but it's the days that you need the most help are the days that it's like when the weather's horrible. Like you just can't get through them all because the weather's so crummy. And or when the weather's crummy, you got the most to doctor. And also it's when you normally get them in is when it's horrible weather. But that's when you need the help. It's like, hey, it's
oh yeah,
it's a slurry out here, and you can't feel your hands, and your and your rope weighs 40 pounds because it's solid mud, and your horse can't run because it's so boggy. Would you come and help? And it's raining.
Yeah. Like no. I'll be there next week.
It's 33 degrees and raining. Could you come help me?
I'll be there next week when it's 59, sunny, and the ground is good.
No, I'll be good then.
Yeah. No, I remember being on the phone with Chet, my brother-in-law, who I was working for, and throwing up on the phone and it getting on my phone, and I was just so sick, and it was the exact day you just described, and having to go through all these yearlings by myself is just miserable. But you got to be there. You can't skip it.
Yeah.
You got to be there. But no, I don't know. What about horse training? How have you how do you feel like as a horseman you progressed? And I'm curious what the stock horse program did for you. Ranch horse program.
Yeah, right. No, it I mean, that was like the TCU of horse training for me. I mean, like a turning point for riding horses. Like I knew, like Park said, Park's always been on the competition end, and riding, training horses, making them competitive. And then I've always been on the starting horses again. And then as soon as they're, about broke, then they go to a camp man or get sold or whatever. And I've never had one past that. And then went to Tech and I mean, it's almost like it's almost like a fraternity kind of a thing. It's like before being on a ranch horse team, I was living in town in Lubbock, and at one point I had some colts that I was riding, but I had to go drive a ways out there, and then they got being a pain, go feed and everything. But I was out of the clique on the ranch horse team. I was just total student, hated my life, didn't ever get out of town, just didn't ever get horseback. I was miserable.
Yeah.
And then I guess Dusty graduated or moved or something, but he said, man, and then Park moved in with the Cog, or not Park, but True moved in with the Cogdals and/or Park, and Dusty called and wanted to know if I wanted to move in that little house, and it's a perfect little house outside of town. It's like a little camp, but moved out there, got to being on the ranch horse team, and got to be with, and that's kind of where I got close with Park and True and all them, and I don't know how Cooper did it, but he was a student. He's the same age as us, and he was our coach. And I mean, we respected him, but not like, someone that was an older, like say a 30 or 40-year-old guy that was professional coming in and teaching us. Like, it's our buddy, it's our classmate. He had a hard time, training on us, getting us all pay attention, but he did a good job, and I mean, there's no way that I haven't shown in a long time, but I was showing in RHA, at Tech, but was fairly competitive, and there's no way I could have done that without Cooper and being on a ranch horse team and Kim Lindsay and.
Yeah, I can sense the click that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Just Zach and I, he's the brother I knew the best in high school, and both our dads were ag teachers, and anyway, at the time, and and so I kind of kept track of them. I went to Lubbock a few times in college, but they all went to Tech, and I went to A&M, and there was a ranch horse team at A&M, but since I was rodeoing, that was kind of where my focus was. But regardless, it just seemed like it just always came up in conversation, the ranch horse team in Lubbock, and with Chris having been there, and then just the history of it was kind of a thing. And so that's what made me ask that, like I just how impactful it was on you as a horseman. But
no, when I started at South Plains, and I just pulled up to the school. I missed orientation and all that, and just I'd like to go to school here. I didn't have any help, didn't know what I was doing, and I ran into a guy. Anyway, I met Cutter Patterson. Was going to South Plains, was kind of the first friend I met at school, and he was riding saddle bronc, and so I was trying to get in with the rodeo guys, and I didn't know anything about rodeo really, but I was going with Cutter some, and that just never really.
You got on some saddle bronc courses?
Yeah, 4.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Did you go out to Charlie's?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
yeah.
Neat.
And then I started being a test dummy, and I didn't enjoy that very much.
No. You don't need to do that.
Flipping upside down.
Nobody needs to do that.
In the chute 3 times, dang, that I'm glad that that horse won't work. They need to send him back. Obviously, he's not going to cut it. And then finally he stood up, and they're like, get on him. Dang, I'm paying you to do this.
Yeah.
This is retarded. But yeah, I asked them if I could ride saddle bronc, and I didn't know anything. They're like, well, what do you know? I was like, nothing. I've rode horses. I've rode in ranch bronc, which is not even the same area. And they're like, well, you can go with us, but not be a part of us to practice.
Yeah.
And I was like, good enough. And then I was borrowing everything from Cutter, his boots, his saddle, and everything. And then we would go, and Cutter would be all coaching on me, and then he'd help me, or maybe he'd have an off day, and then my coach would be gone because he was like mad at himself or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to do this deal. But I was just like, main thing is I'm going to be spurring. And when I come out, like, I'm not going to do the D-up thing. I'm going to be spurring. And
Yeah.
I'd get one spurring in. Maybe I'd mark them out, and then that was about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Learning to ride broncs, like, it's been, I think a guy can go to a school or, going to a college pen is a great way to get started, if you're young enough to still go to a college rodeo, but like that would be ideal for a guy. But the best way, I think, is if you can find yourself a practice pen with just a sweetheart horse that will take care of you.
Yeah. And you kind of got that going on a little bit, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. So right now I've got the sweetheart horse I have is it's an old horse of Pete Carr's, got the Scotty Lovelace Classic brand on him. He's that old, and no offense to Scotty, it's just been a while.
Yeah.
But Hang 'em High is his name. The guys say, talking to him, like maybe NFR in like 08-ish, 09. But so a campaigner circles to the left every single time, and still pretty bucky and droppy. But if you just hang the flank on him and just put it on him rather than pull it, he'll just make those same tracks, but kick over this ranch fuel. Ranch fuel, baby. Kick over the ranch fuel can. And, just really help a guy get started. So I try to make that for the few bronc riders I've had here that get started, like that's their first dozen rides. And that's the way I think it should go.
That'd be cool.
You know what I mean? Like at least because it's your 9th ride before you even wake up from blacking out.
Right.
Those first few jumps. And if guys are coming over from other events, they won't black out that long, and they can probably handle him for, half a dozen rides. But I just think that's the best way for a guy to get started with. And I've had some ranch bronc guys come get on him too. But if you want to start rodeoing, bears or broncs, that's the way to go. And bull riding, you can find bulls like that in the sale barn.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like that'll just kind of jump and kick barely over a ranch fuel can. And, but horses are so hard to find. And then if you're going to a stock contractors, well, they are going to have 20 colts bred to buck that they need outs on, like you're talking about.
Right, yeah.
And they're just itching. But I just don't see where them guys like don't realize how not good for the sport that is.
Right.
Because you got on your 4th one, you're like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah. Well, I guess it was my thing on I might have gotten in one little rodeo, but in ranch rodeo, you got your whole team's there, and then all the people you've ever looked up to's there, and then your parents and your buddies, and like say Abilene Western Heritage is coming up this weekend. 90% of the audience is like rural ranch folks in the audience, and then everybody in the back are local ranches, and so you're just totally surrounded by your team. And then versus say college rodeo or whatever, you might have one buddy there with you, but you're kind of solo. And I guess I was kind of like a social bronc rider. I'd like to be with my buddies that had my back and stuff, and then going to these little rodeos here or there that I knew nobody. I guess maybe my heart wasn't in it, obviously, because just me and the bronc, and it's kind of like riding colts by yourself. You get bucked off, it sucks. But if you're with a crew and you get bucked off and everybody laughs at you, it's not near as bad.
Yeah,
if someone's there to laugh at you for getting bucked off,
for sure.
But I think that I kind of saw that, and that's the reason I never took the investment to get all my stuff, get a saddle and stuff. But,
right, which is not. I mean, that is an investment.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it ain't cheap stuff.
And then, like I said, I wasn't not going to be spurring one. And anything other than saddle bronc riding, if your legs go past like straight down from your knees, you're kicking your butt and you're getting bucked off.
Right.
I mean, you do not want your feet to go behind you. That's the worst thing that can happen. So like it's, counterintuitive to me.
Yes. Yeah.
Like
No,
I don't think I could have D'd up because it was just like, do not do that.
right. No, counterintuitive is a really good word. Just that's what each of those events are. Like a bull, you wouldn't think you need to like go closer to the horns to make it, over the hump, pun intended. But that's what you got to do,
Right.
And yeah, bareback riding, your intuition is to like drop your feet down to that horse's girth so that you can, but you need to rear back and bareback. But yeah, counterintuitive is on bronc riding, I would say it's that you really got a tendency to pull when now all of a sudden your shoulders will get out over your hips and you're bucked off, but you're supposed to lift and stay back. But
it only takes like 50 to figure that out.
Yeah.
For me. Anyway,
Right.
I remember the first bronc riding I got on, Cody's brother, Heath Hatfield, was there. Anyway, I got in on this bronc and got down in there, and I was just kind of.
Wait, Cody Cole's brother Heath Hatfield,
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah,
Cody Demos's brother Heath Demos?
Cody Heath Hatfield, Cole Hatfield's brother.
Gotcha. Cody. I didn't realize Cody was Heath's first name.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
From Stephenville area, call him Cody. Guthrie area, call him Heath.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you were mixing up the Demos brothers
No.
rather than the Hatfield brothers. I'm going to start calling him Cody.
Yeah.
Anyhow, sorry,
Anyway,
I interrupted you.
So
Continue.
he's there, and I go get on this horse, and I'm just kind of like stepping down on a horse, just kind of la land, like I have no idea what's fixing to happen. And then I grab my hack rein like I'm fixing to show a horse, like with like out the top, like this. I'm just kind of like, are they gonna open this gate or like what's going on? And then he's like coaching me up, and I grab it like that, and he's just flips it, puts it in my hand. He's like, "Good luck, you're gonna get bucked off." And I didn't have a clue, but that's how I wasn't lifting.
Yeah.
I
That's hilarious. How I'm curious, you've been all over, you've seen the way your dad does it, but like how would you approach as either a manager or a wagon boss, like running a crew for like, let's say a spring works, after having been to all the lease places and hung out at the Sixes and hung out at all these different places? Like, are there some things you would do different? It's kind of a broad question.
Yeah.
It's super broad.
Yeah.
But
real broad.
I feel like you've probably got some things where it's just like, I think this is the most efficient way of doing this, and this is how I would do it. I'm just curious. You may not have a specific answer.
No, I don't really. Like when we went to that place up north,
Yeah.
the direction, I didn't have to do anything as far as the crew. I mean, anybody could have dropped out, and the next guy could have been running it. They were all awesome guys, and just any pins we'd get to. I mean, they would even have. None of them were set up how we were used to, or very efficient, and we just get to the pins, and no words were said, and then just everybody knew that we had to strip this way and go this, and this. It just no words were spoken. It just started happening,
Mm-hmm.
And we were all used to working together, and the other guys were lost or doing something different. I mean, obviously, we didn't do what we grew up doing, and so when you're with a crew like that, it just flows, and you just talking about how you would set it up or whatever. Like, I guess there's just this thing ingrained in you that it don't matter where you're at or whatever. You kind of got a system down that'll work. As far as like changing somebody's deal up, you go to the Wagners, don't strip their cows off the calves. Sixes,
Right.
you got to strip every cow off the calves. Everybody's got something different, and I think everybody should have something different.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll strip the cows, sometimes I won't. A lot of times I'll strip them for a little bit and then just leave some cows in there just to. If they were the last to be stripped, they're more likely to be the sillier cows that wouldn't run by you horseback at the gate. Leave them in there with the calves, and you'll be going up and down and by them and dragging calves over them for the next hour. They're either break through the pins or be a little gentler when you get done.
When you get done. That's a really good point.
Yeah. So, no, I just cut out the inefficiencies of it.
Yeah.
We was helping somebody the other day, and you if you're on the left, the calf's opened up to the left side away from the fire. So if you're cutting, you're against the fence. You walk over there, you cut it, and then they were putting the sacks and the ears and the nuts in the middle. Well, then you go through. Then you got to kind of argue with the brander to go through his space, or in front of the calf. If they're letting the calf up, the calf's going to run over you. Or if you go behind that guy's getting up, backing up, you got a knife in your hand when he's backing up to go to the middle. And then some places they hang a little
Apron.
nail apron on the fence. So you go to that calf opened up, cut, turn around, go back where nobody's there. It's just I would say don't be. I don't like to be hung up on like cultural things of like we do it this way because we're cowboys. I think a lot of it is, efficiency or safety. Like when my wife, she hadn't ridden just a whole lot, and the dep absolutely hadn't been around like ranching like we'd done. And she was like, you got these rules and all this cowboy. Like, I'm not trying to be a cowboy. I just, I don't need to do all that. And it's like, well, you grab the horn getting on instead of the horn in the cantle because it's safe. Because if you do that, you're posturing me backwards. The horse runs off. You get drugged or you could get kicked. Like, there's a safety to it. It's not a culture thing.
Yeah.
And, a lot of it. If I would say if you can't back up what you're doing with the reasoning, then it's kind of probably a silly reason to do it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
If there's a reason to head and heel them, if there's some big maverick bulls, then why? Then it would be ignorant to just go in there and heel them and drag them out, just because that we don't do the other way.
Yeah,
but vice versa. There needs to be a reason why you're doing it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah,
I don't know. That's not answering your question at all.
No, it is.
But I don't have a good.
No, I mean it's a broad question.
Every place is different.
Yeah, no, that I've not ever really asked it before. You're just of that age where it just seems like you're about to be. Well, you I don't know. I could see you like getting a phone call, and you probably already have, like, hey, can you come run XYZ Ranch? Can you come, be the wagon boss? Can you whatever? And it just made me curious, like, what your mindset might be.
Yeah. No, I mean, that, and then, especially now the ranches are also any ranch. I think they're quite a bit different than most other businesses in that the landowner 90% of the time. I mean, isn't it impossible for, even if you have a decent income, to go buy land and pay for it with cattle? I mean, you can't do it that I know of.
Right.
I can't do it.
Cows can't make a land payment.
Yeah, and then, I mean, essentially that would be the lease. So if the lease could pay for the land, then, but that doesn't happen. And then you add the hunting, and it still barely happens. So what I'm getting at is it's got to be someone that's pretty wealthy, and so the people that own these larger, especially have a larger ranch, the people that own this, there's a really big disconnect with just the area in general, because they're not from that area. There's not a lot of people in King County that have a large there's not much to be had, but anyway, there's a big discount, and I'm not talking about like Wyoming or Louisiana, Florida, anywhere. If you have a large place, there's a disconnect between the owner and then the manager, and then there's normally a disconnect between the manager and the crew.
Yes.
Because, I mean, there has to be, because you can't go directly from the owner to the cowboys. There's just such a big difference. But just for each one of those guys to understand the next level, there's some places that they're not, the owner's not profit driven. They're like status driven. Like, I want to be the place that owns the most cows or most land or whatever. So make money, don't make money. And then others are, they're doing it to make making income, want to do something, and then so say their manager's trying to do it, and the cowboys don't agree with, or farm hands, whatever you are, don't agree with the boss. Anyway, everybody needs to be communicating well while we're doing things.
Yeah. I think the guy at the very top, be it the owner, like he would need to have a vision,
right,
and the ideas.
Right.
The guy in the middle, and then he doesn't have to have quite as many people skills, and he doesn't have to have the technical skills.
Mm-hmm.
But then the guy in the middle, he has to at least know the vision, know the ideas.
Yeah.
He does have to have the most people skills, and then he'll need to have lesser amount of the technical skills.
Yeah.
And then I think the guys at the bottom, they have to have the most amount of the technical skills.
Yeah.
They probably don't have as many people skills, and they typically don't have to worry about the ideas or the vision of the ranch.
I think I was wasn't being real direct, and I forgot most of all this. When I was learning, one of my first classes at Saul Ross was learning, I don't know, marketing and sales or management or something. And it was this old Marine guy, and he was teaching us, a lot of people know what I'm talking about, but he was teaching us like out of the Marine handbook, like leadership and the chain of command and stuff. And what is it? Responsibility comes with authority.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe that's what I was trying to get at. That there's a lot to be said that a lot of businesses kind of miss. Like, if I'm going to be responsible if these cattle live or die or whatever, if I'm responsible for that, then I have the, that authority. I need to be able to have that authority. If I took these guys to go do something, to go brand, and I'm in charge of them, but I don't have the authority to fire them, then that's I wouldn't say that's correct. Because why wouldn't I just say, well, the heck with you, we'll do what we want to. You're not the boss, and he ain't here, so whatever. No, I have the authority. I'm not.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm not into firing people or anything. I'm just trying to say that
for sure.
And then following the chain of command, like I think Mark Voss said that, and this was Mark said this. I wasn't around my Uncle Bob a whole lot when he ran the pitchforks or with the crew, but he said he appreciated James and Bob's relationship more than most he'd been around. That that Bob was manager and James ran the crew, and Bob would go with them when they worked, but Bob was just wanted to get out of the office and go with them, and he didn't. I mean, I'm sure this isn't 100% accurate. Someone's going to be like, he did tell us what to do, but he would just kind of be there like another one of the crew, and he didn't go over James and tell people how to do something correct. That was James's position. If he didn't like it, they'd go back to the office, and he said, James, you need to run your crew like so. But it was the chain of command, and then vice versa.
Yeah.
And then like in Forrest Gump, is it Forrest Gump? No, it's Saving Private Ryan. Is the crap talking goes up, not down. Isn't it, when they're walking through the field right before they get all snapped or whatever?
Yeah.
He says you can talk, the lower guy can talk crap to the boss about his position or whatever, but it would be, I think it'd be poor for my dad owns the ranch. I kind of run the ranch, and then we'd have employees or whatever. For me to go and say like the owner, my dad does this poorly. I don't like the way he does this. For me to talk crap, then that kind of, takes the pride out of the crew, and just it's bad morale for the crew. And the crew can tell me that they don't like what he does, and then I'll straighten the crew up, maybe, whatever. But it flows up.
Absolutely.
Not down.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah. I think it's neat when you get to see somebody like I mean, in any organization, not just ranches, but like if somebody can have a little bit of all three of those skills I was talking about, like if, the guy at the very top needs to have the vision and be the idea man, the guy in the middle needs to have the most people skills, the guys at the bottom need to have the most technical skills. I think it's super cool when you see somebody, and probably in the military too, you brought up that somebody that
they get respected for having started at the bottom. They got the technical skills, and then they've obviously got the people skills, and then they work their way to the very top where they got the vision and the ideas to take the ship that direction. And it's neat to see with cowboys too. So I guess if somebody else owns the ranch, you're not ever going to get that high.
Right.
But to watch somebody be a day worker or camper and then be wagon boss and then on to manager or whatever, that's just and I think the opposite can be true. Just because you are a really good cowhand maybe doesn't necessarily mean you're ready to manage people or make decisions on the budget. But I identified you as one that can do all three, and that's what made me ask that question. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I've heard it quite a bit, but like the hardest job is being the manager, and I you know, we don't really have employees necessarily, but is the people management, you know, and having all the different folks, but that's also what makes it great. You build a good team, and I mean, if you have good leaders in your business, then you're bringing in good people in your. I mean, just like what you got going on here, you're bringing good people into the community, and then I mean that goes back to being a good Christian or being a good patriot. Like you're just starting with your family, and then you're starting with your business and growing, and then that's a good way to get good things going. And vice versa, if you got, you know, you can start
can be a disaster or it can be a dream.
Right.
Yeah. With the right people, I feel like for me at least, it's a dream. You know, I could see how with the wrong people, like it can quickly turn into a nightmare though. You know, like it just, and I think that's whether you're talking about a YouTube apparel line or a ranch or military or whatever it is, or for that instance, a damn country. Golly. But hopefully all the above are turning around for the better here lately.
Hello.
Siri's trying to talk to me. She's like, "Oh, you want to bring up politics?"
Yeah.
Siri wants to chime in on politics. That little bubble keeps popping up like I'm talking to her, and I'm not. They're listening though, aren't they? Cool. Been in any wrecks?
No, I haven't been in any wrecks. I don't know what happened, but I quote unquote ran over our dog yesterday.
Ooh.
And had to take it into the vet.
Oh, it made it.
Yeah. Well, I thought I was taking it in to like not have to put it down in front of the family to go to the professional to do it. Like I just knew he was not going to make it. And anyway, he's got some kind of weird puncture. I was creeping out of our driveway and felt the dog bump and heard a yelp, and I ran over our dog, and I stopped and got out, and he seemed fine. And then anyway, later he was bleeding or something. Anyway, he had a puncture in him, and pretty sure that I don't have any javelins sticking out of my vehicle to have done it, but that's the only wreck because almost killed our family dog.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad wreck.
Go from hero to zero real quick with
zero.
The kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I left, I was like, well, this is your first lesson, and like, he's not coming back. You know, like he's like dead. You have to figure out what death means. Oof. Thank goodness I brought him back. They didn't. When I got home, they were asleep. So maybe I'm the hero again this morning when they saw him.
They didn't even really maybe realize it had happened.
I mean, pray he does make it, but
what's maybe a story that you wished your dad had told on mine and his and your podcast last year? Was there anything where he's like, man, I wished he'd have told this or that?
Yeah, there was, but I forgot since.
Oh, dang. On the drive home, you'll remember.
Yeah. No, like I said, I think a lot of the glory days of the ranch and everything were when I was little in the early 2000s and the 90s and stuff. And I know somebody else could, like Art Reed or someone could definitely tell some stories, but I know there's a story about a horse he had called Low C that was one of those that should have been made into soap or whatever, but my dad just wouldn't give up on him. And but I wasn't there and don't remember it well enough to talk about. There's at least 2 incidences. One time we were at the Beavers in Knox County, this place that's all over the Wichita River, and Wichita just really makes a bunch of teardrops, and it's just the north and south side of the river, but you can cross it going east, north, and south, and you can cross it. You go south and cross it 4 times, and you can get really lost. And then obviously where the creek is, where it's the brushiest. But we had a plane helping us, and there'd always be mavericks and wild cattle, and we'd always have to go back after the same cattle had always got away. But we had a plane spotting for us, and I might have been like 16 or something, but so I forgot my rope. I don't know how I did that, but I didn't have a rope on my saddle. So I got in charge of running the radio to the plane. And, he couldn't really work the cattle. He could just tell us where we were and where the cattle were. And we got into this pasture, and, I mean, I don't know how big it was, like 5 sections or something. And it was funny. We went through the gate, and my dad was like, it was like we were in the cavalry or something. He's like, anything that makes noise, strap it down. If your spurs bounce, like, do something about it. Nobody talks. Like, this stealth mode. Like, we aren't going to make a sound going in here. These cattle are ignorant, and they're going to run off. And the plane's, seems like miles away looking for them. And he radios to me that he found them. And we just went 100 yards from the gate, like in the slow trot naturally with Tom, but not making any noise, not talking or anything. And he's like, they're running. And it's like they're a mile away, and they're running already from us being in the pasture. Like, how in the world? And the plane's like way out there. And so we just dead run to the plane, and it's not like a field. I mean, we're just getting drug off by trees and everything. And run up there, and everybody's already got their ropes down or pulling them back up from getting hung in trees, and that plane's over the top of us, and one of the cowboys is up there with him, and we're just running under the plane. We still haven't seen any cattle. We don't know what's going on. And he's like, throw, catch them. I'm like, we don't see anything. And he's like, you're on top of them, and it's just so dang brushy, we didn't know.
Dang.
And he's like, catch them. And he's like, we don't see cattle. And everybody's just piled up, and then here in a second we come out, and it's this big clearing, and we'd gotten separated a little bit from what we thought was trees moving, maybe where cattle went. We come out in this big clearing, and there's no cattle, and there's like 5 guys just come out of the brush and a run, and then just nothing.
Dang!
Like, what in the heck? And there is one of those teardrops in the river, and there's a big mott of trees. I say big mott, I mean the size of this little area, like. If someone's in there a horseback, 1 is so brushy you couldn't get in there, or 2 you could see them. And so we just kind of ride out and pulling the ropes back up, and our horses are smoked, and we're letting them off and raising their saddles up for them to breathe and rolling cigarettes or whatever. And here in a little bit, and we're just right next to this mott, and here in a little bit my dad comes out, and his hat's like off, and he's barely on his saddle, and his rope's all over him. And he's got like 1 rein, and he comes out, and he pulls himself back up and sees us, and he's like, what in the hell are y'all doing? Get in there. Get after them. Like, all these cows were in that little mott with my dad. And anyway, I mean, we were in big trouble because we're totally relaxed,
Yeah.
And everybody's trying to put their saddles back on, and those cows bust out of that mott and jump into the Wichita. And there's only a few places you can cross it, or you'll bog down. And anyway, we got cinched up and went to the river, and was like, nope, ain't going in there. And Tom finally gets all his stuff back together, and just, what in the hell, and just blows through the middle of us, and just like Gus running over that guy, like just all but T-Bone just running through us, and goes out there and makes it about 3 lunges, and his horse is. And he looks back, and Art Reed's right behind him, and just stopped on the bank. And he's like, what are you doing up there? Get after him. Art's like, okay. He goes in, his horse makes it like 1 more stride past Tom. He's stuck in the mud. And I was like, the road's like 100 yards over here. Let's go take the road. Anyway, with that had happened more than once when it's like, this is not doable. No one in the right mind would go do this. And my dad's like, goes, and then everybody's stacked up behind him and like, why aren't y'all going? Because it's not safe.
Yeah.
That's not a good idea.
Why do you think we're pausing?
Yeah. Art could tell this story, but they had another one, river story, and I don't know what happened, but the river was running like currently, and this might have been a lower end of the Croton Creek, but over there in King, Stonewall County, and the whole crew's there at the creek crossing and not going across. My dad shows up and he's like, "What the heck? Cross the creek!" And he goes in it, and his horse just goes under, and his hat just stays. Like horse and cowboy and everything go under, and his hat's just floating down. And they're like, "What in the heck?" And then he pops up downstream, and his horse gets back out where they came from, and Tom like grabs a log or whatever. And anyway, I don't know the story exactly, but I mean it wasn't a funny. It was like could have died.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Art ropes him, or Art gets in there with him, and they get out. And then, however it was, the horse and the cowboy are on opposite sides of where they need to be, and they got to flip flop. And then I think it was again like turn around, and look at the crew like, "Well, come on, I'm on the dry side."
Yeah. Was there a sense of relief when you transitioned from all those leases to hanging out at Tongue River and helping the sixes, and like, you know, that these pastures are this big with this much brush and this many cows? And
No. My dad grew up working at the sixes, and then there's a big gap there. And then he went from, you know, I think it's kind of obvious that I thought it was a long time, but it was just like when he was in high school, or like right before college, just a few years that he was really working there. But that's kind of where he built all the wagon and everything. I mean, they were pulling the wagon like the old wagon, and like, sure enough, don't go to town for a month on the wagon. And he really based most of his stuff off that. And a lot of the leases were around that area, so it was kind of like the old sixes. And I just remember we'd have a like deuce and a half Army trucks with stock racks on them pulling the wagon, and then a straight deck with the horses, and that's what we like, those two vehicles, and then a feed pickup. And that's what the whole crew would, like 12 of us would be in, so 3 rigs, and we'd be go out in a break somewhere and camp for a couple of weeks and work. And then you'd see the sixes come by and their brand new red pickups and brand new Easley trailers, and like going back to eat lunch, you know, at town. And then I think that's one of the first times I heard my dad say something cuss or say something derogatory. Is like, dang, sixes pansies and their pickups, and he just hated pickups and trailers. Like, we're going to trot. Other than like going to another county, we're going to drive, but past that, we're going to trot. Like, you don't use pickups and trailers. And anyway, so he always cussed the new sixes for using pickups and trailers and ruining horses and stuff. But when I finally got to go help, I was like, how could you become a cowboy here? Like, there's no challenge. Like, you just see your next man, you can see the cattle, and like, how would you learn to do anything? Like, it's just, there's my next man, and just walk to the pens. I thought it was pathetic. I mean, that sounds real arrogant, but like when I was arrogant at the time, I'm sure, but I just, I wonder what my dad was talking about, these sixes cowboys. They don't know how to do anything. And then obviously I got my butt smoked flanking, but, and then my perspectives changed a lot, but, no, I thought it was inferior at the time.
Yeah. I was, on my podcast I had the podcast with Cole, and I clipped a little segment because I kind of thought people on Facebook, they love, if there is any possible way to take a negative angle at something, out of all the platforms you put content on, Facebook is the one where they it's the most negative place. I don't know why, but I mean, like, you could just make a video about puppies and saying the sky is blue,
and
Show
they're
your
gonna
Facebook.
and they're gonna talk about how cats are better, and it actually is more gray today. I don't know. So, anyways, I put that clip of Cole saying like, and why don't you hate black? He's like, hate black cows, no passion,
Racist.
you know. Yeah, and no, they didn't say it was racist, but it was just like all these like people that have black cows took it as if he had said, I hate your children.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know why,
Right.
but everybody's just like, oh man, he's just like, and a couple of people were just like, that's because he's a cowboy and I'm a cattleman.
Yeah.
You know, and anyhow, so I was talking to Derek Begay. We had a 4-hour podcast, and Derek, I tell him, it's like, yeah, everybody said that people that hates black cows, they're not cowboys anyway, they're cowboys. He's like, absolutely they're not.
Yeah.
How you going to learn anything on a black cow
Yeah.
was his argument.
Yeah.
It's like, there's nothing to learn. You just walk to the pen. And
Yeah. Or beat him to the pins. He's not alone. I think that's most everybody. Like
Yeah.
if you are selling cattle and own cattle and want to sell, if you're in the beef business, you want to sell some Angus beef.
yep, black cows.
But if you're a cowboy and you want something different, I don't know,
Yeah.
but anything other than the black Angus cow.
It's completely okay that both places exist, both opinions. But
Right.
yeah, I felt bad for Cole. And usually that's the only time like I'll block somebody on social media is if they like attack a guest, because it's so hard to get guests.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's an easy one. I'll just like block people real quick. I try to do it before the guest sees the comments, you know, but and I also try to get a little bit more picky with what I clip.
Yeah, but we're used to that argument because I mean, obviously that's go back to the owner and the management are making the most profitable animal, and the crew's never going to like handling those cattle. I mean, they would prefer a tiger stripe or something, like you get in behind them and they're going somewhere. It's just, where do you haze them towards?
Yeah, exactly.
The black cows, she'll take off running and you'll take off running, and then as soon as she finds somewhere to stop, she stops in a tree and you keep going.
Yeah.
And but yeah.
I get both sides of it.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I really do. Like,
if you're just utilizing your country, you'd want kind of a Brahmin influenced cattle, but if you're selling quality beef, you want good Angus type cattle.
when I came to this part of the world, I had some cows, and a lot of them, I had some bunch of Herefords, for me as a bunch, and then obviously black cows. And so like I've got 2 lease places, and one of them you can gather like spread out and, you know, cover the entire place. You know, you can see it all. It's just mesquite trees here and there. And then the other place is like post oaks everywhere, like oak trees, like, and you gotta, if you were going to actually gather it, you better have some dogs. You know,
Right,
you're just
yeah.
not going to gather it. You're not. It's more of a hunting place where they let me have some cows. And I got the Herefords on the one you can gather, and I got the Angus on the ones that you got to honk.
Yeah.
And they just
Come-
slowly
come
walk
in.
out, and, you know, which right now you're not honking them much at all because there's so much grass. But I don't know. I appreciate both points of view, but you know, as a practitioner, I just very much appreciate at least the idea behind Cole and Derek's mindset towards those type of cows. But in Derek's mind, it makes just the absolute most sense because he's in Arizona and he wants a cow that will go make a living. You
Right.
know, like she's got to have to go.
Yeah.
And he made a comment about these black cows. They'll just stand around and look at you. And Kai Snapchatted his radio where he was listening to the podcast, and he turned and there's 4 black cows just staring, almost, you know, like can almost lick his window. They're
Right.
waiting on grain, you know, on the cubes. And anyhow, it was a funny.
No, you
thought,
just
but-
got to match the cattle to the place. And then I think it's Dustin Parsons that I was talking to. He, I was asking him, someone told me he had a certain type of cattle, and I asked him how he liked them.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of making this up exactly where the places are, but he's like, I got a place around Pecos, and I got Corianis, and I love the Corianis there. And I got a place in the Flint Hills, and I got black Angus cows that do awesome. I got some cows in Jones County around Haskell where it's a little rough. I got some black baldies. I got some tiger stripes over here, and
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't get rid of any of them where they're at because they utilize where they're at.
Man, it's crazy. Like when I was a kid, I heard my dad say you can haul cows west but not east, and I didn't really know. I just I thought it was just more like one of those things that we just did, because he liked the west better.
Mm-hmm.
But man, when we moved east, more horses than cows we took over there, and they were in belly high grass and starving to death. It was crazy. It was the most drastic example of what he had said, and it blew my mind. And my first set of cows that I did get, those Herefords, come out of West Texas, and I was leasing a place down by College Station. Same thing, just starving to death for almost 3 years before they got used to it.
Yeah.
And
I know it's hard for me to adapt. We did all that place up north traveling, and then we went to Mesquite once, and I was helping. I think maybe went with Tongue River once, but I went with Jamie Nail once, and I don't know. He was paying like $300 when day wages were like $100, and
so you got to go.
And some awesome people, and it's a fun deal. And I was like, man, I can't wait to get home and be done with this deal. This is horrible.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's definitely culture shock for the cowboys and horses, if not cattle.
Yeah, for sure.
Or not culture, but
grass for the cattle
climate.
and culture for the cowboys. Yeah, it is different. I have found there's, good cowboys are good cowboys. You just kind of got to adjust to the country. But is there something to when working for your dad, was there something to when you water your horse? Is that a thing? Is that
like if he's
like
hot,
just like a rule of thumb, just as you're working throughout the day? Did I make that up?
No, yeah, I mean there is for sure, but not with my dad.
Gotcha.
He's not. There's a lot of things like that like I'd go somewhere. I bet your dad sure wouldn't let you do that or do this. There's a lot of little things that I don't know what you call that, isms or whatever. He wasn't in on like ride in front of somebody or whatever. Obviously, you don't do that, but like at Tongue River, you get to a set of pins, and then the guy on the outside goes through, and then you single file into the pins or however. Those are some things that, you kind of did or didn't do. But like I said, we were on these leases that had these little janky pins or just these little wire pins. And I mean, people were getting off to hold the outside of the pins up. And we just didn't we didn't learn some of that. I mean, you didn't just blatantly ride in front of someone, but there's quite a bit of stuff we didn't do or pick up on, or Tom wasn't a big influencer of. Like you should cinch your horse up, lead him up a few steps, finish cinching him or whatever, get on him. And then, if you're going to rope, loosen your cinch before you go do it. My dad cinch him up tight in the morning and then just go. And he might be too loose when everybody's got a story of him roping a bull or something in a saddle going over the horse's head because he never cinched up ever.
Yeah.
It's just like hindsight. Oh, that'd have been a good idea, but somebody saved me so I didn't die.
Yeah.
Like, we'll do it again next time.
Right.
Like, I don't know. There's a lot of things like that, most time if you came across water, you'd water your horse.
Yeah.
But yeah, like one thing I didn't realize, you'd drive cows in the summer and be hot and they'd be slobbering or whatever. And you knew you were going a long ways and you would pass water and, hey, we better, let them get some water before we keep going. Cause it's hot. They need the water. Once you water them, they won't drive worth a dang. Like maybe you can flash them past it and let everybody start to get a drink and keep going. But if you just let them tank up, pun intended, and they won't drive.
Yeah.
So I mean that's the thing.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, you would think we're going to make a long trip. Let's load up on water, but they won't drive very well. And then when you get to where you're going, if it's hot like that, you want them to stop and bed down. So if your final destination is the water and they get tanked up there, then but yeah, there's. I mean, you don't want to get a horse smoking hot and then water him, but
Yeah.
yeah, there is a deal on that, but that's
Nice.
not necessarily a rule I follow.
Yeah, I got you. What else? ThePeoplesBeef.com.
Yes, sir.
Did you bring me some?
I got something to pick up. You think it's thawed out? We could cook it. It's probably thawed out.
That's what I was thinking.
What?
That's what I was hoping.
Oh,
It's
dang.
like-
Well, it's probably not. If we were wanting to refreeze it, it would probably be thawed out. And if we're wanting to cook it, it's probably hard as a rock right now.
Probably
Yeah.
have to eat all of it.
Yeah. Oh, dang it. Yeah, and the tomahawk's about the size of a roast, so it might.
You brought a
take-
tomahawk?
It might take a couple days.
Oh, wow.
And it's got a rib bone on it, about like that.
Dang.
I love tomahawk.
Tomahawk.
Oh, dang. Well, that's
Oh, sorry.
too bad. I'm just
Sorry
sorry.
about your bad luck.
Maybe you should get you
What
one on thepeoplesbeef.com.
Did we call it the people's beef? I'm sorry, it's just the person's
Right.
beef.
Of course.
Yeah.
My mistake.
Do you
The people, not just any people.
do you yeah. What do you mean, you people? Do you find yourself selling more like individual cuts or half a beef at a time?
More individual.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Would you prefer one or the other?
Yeah, I'd prefer the bulk because I would prefer it, and then the consumer should prefer the bulk because it's just cheap. The more we got to handle it, and
Right.
I get it out of the one freezer to inventory it into the next, and then Laura pulls it out and puts it in the boxes and the logistics of the drive. Anyway, every time we got to mess with it, I mean that's we got to be compensated for our time. So if you could just kill it, hand it to the guy, and be cheaper for them and easier.
Did you?
And then you got that's kind of what I was thinking. This was right after 2020. Is you got a freezer full of beef. Prices go up or some go without electricity would be bad with a freezer. But if you got a welder generator plugged into,
Yeah.
it's nice to have beef stocked up.
Do you have trouble organizing the beef when it shows up, and like as far as like how you're going to put it online because of different size of cuts? Like this ribeye is 12 ounces, the next one's 11, the next one's 10, the next one's 14.
Right. Yeah. No, we like the first ones, we just had a full, I don't know what it is, like 14-foot trailer or 16,
Mm-hmm.
full trailer, like over the axle limit, just full of boxes of beef. It was like, well, I wonder what's in these boxes.
Yeah.
And there wasn't enough room to sort to do an inventory. Then you got to stay in sub-zero temps to get the inventory.
1,000%.
And then anyway, it's like, man, but the different processors will help you out and at least tell you like, hey, this is a box of ribeye. You're not
Yeah.
digging around and there's one fillet in 50 pounds of hamburger meat or something. But
Yeah.
Obviously different butchers will help you out, and then on marketing different sizes. Yeah, it's we'll have a system down this round, and like, all right, we got one ribeye that's pretty much, if anything's too small or too big, then one guy will get a bonus. If they're too small, we'll just add it to, or eat it ourselves or something like that.
Oh, okay. You kind of manage that after the order's made.
Yeah, but then the next one, we have a whole box of small steaks and a whole box of big ones, or maybe we asked for 1.25 inch or 1.5 inch steaks, and for some reason they made us 1 inch steaks, so we got to go and it's not like there's one butcher you could point your finger at. Like, there's always something that's not totally the way you asked for it.
Yeah.
So like we always got it, Laura does all of that.
Dang.
Yeah. So she does I'll help. This last round I would take it out of the trailer and put it in a display, and as we do that, we kind of update our inventory, and I would do that for Laura, and then, but most of the time it's like, hey, we gotta ship beef on Tuesday, and we don't even have inventory, and I got to update the website, and we got to get the dry ice, and we got to order the boxes, and I'm like, well, I got to ship, so that's your problem.
Yeah.
and I'll leave it all with Laura. But yeah, that's a lot sometimes.
It is a lot. The trailer
So
thing.
yeah, if you just come and request how you want it cut and pick it up right from the butcher, cheaper for you, easier for us.
Oh yeah, going back to the ordering it.
Then bolt.
What do they do? Just email you?
Yeah, they can email us, and I think you email it.
It's on the website. Yeah, the email is obviously on the website.
Yeah. And then you can get on there and email us, and then once we know you're not a creeper or something, call us.
Yeah. Once you get established as a real customer,
Right. Yeah.
as opposed to just like, because you get like some fraudulent.
We're not going to just post our phone number on there.
Yeah.
We don't have a business phone.
Yeah, and on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There'll be someone like, and it seems like inevitably our family or something, there'll be someone older or something that's like, hey, y'all sell beef, but I don't know how to do this email or this phone deal. And like, I just want some meat. And, obviously find somebody that can get our number or something. We can just call us and we'll put it together.
Right. And everybody's going to that. I just eat so much more meat now than I used to, that now that I'm no doctor.
What?
But I read or heard that 50% of people that die of a heart attack did not have high cholesterol. 50%. Half of the people that die of a heart attack don't have high cholesterol. And I just assumed it would have been 99.8. By the way that the world demonizes cholesterol, I just assumed, hey, we're all under this understanding and you guys are talking crap about beef because it's like a fact. Well, it's not a fact, turns out. It's a theory.
Right.
And so there may be some correlation, but to me, 50%, to me, it seems like probably a little more to do with the stress of so now everybody's on carnivore. So I'm not trying to tell people what to do. Consult your physician, whatever. Definitely don't consult, mainstream media, left-wing media. But yeah, I think it was like Harvard or somebody released some study that Lucky Charms were more healthy than beef. It's just like, all right, anybody with a brain probably knows that that's not right. So I went all in on meat, and that's why for the last 3 years, for the most part, I've been pretty strict to carnivore diet, and so I eat a lot more meat. And that's when I ordered some beef from you guys, but it's kind of the first I'm kind of thinking that maybe like just get a half a beef probably be the way to go.
Oh yeah, get you a couple, get you a little mini, get you a small.
Here
herd.
I am asking the salesman.
Yeah, I don't market much, but I'll take advantage of this one.
After
you got all these people,
after doing what you've done, like we did, Brisby beef. Oh, that sounds great. That'll be awesome. I've already got I just stick to t-shirts and caps and hoodies, and because we had a trailer like what you're talking about. This back part wasn't there. It was parked behind this door, and turns out when we unhooked the trailer, you can't just leave it like that. You got to pull up, and then you got to dip it way down because that cooler's in the front. And that condensation will run back if it's jacked up. So we learned that the hard way. Freezer kept going out.
No big deal. Just all your inventory.
Oh yeah, just all your money. 11 head of steers. Freaking. And then the whole these are 7-ounce sirloins or whatever. These are 9. Like, how do we put that online?
And they don't weigh them. You got to weigh them. Or I don't know. We've been through like 4 butchers and. Maybe one of them, but most of the time, the butcher doesn't weigh the cuts. You got to pull them out and weigh them to figure it out.
Right. Yeah. So you got to do that. That's all so labor intensive. So, yeah, I'm with you. Get a half a beef from thepeoplesbeef.com. I think that's what I'm gonna do. But overall, how scared should people be, in your opinion, of getting a ribeye, a steak, even hamburger meat at, let's say, for instance, Walmart?
Ever since I started riding bulls and punching fools, I've been wearing an American hat because I'm an American. I actually wore a different hat before that for the longest, but then my mom got a job. So wear an American hat, old son. Otherwise, you ain't no cowboy. Hey, old son, if you're not feeding every morning with a Can-Am side-by-side, then you ain't no cowboy. I got a Can-Am because I needed a reliable ranch rig that I could use every day because I don't know how to work on stuff like that. So I want something that's not going to break down ever. Get yourself a Can-Am, old son.
Scared?
Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't want to do the scare tactic necessarily, but I mean, it's USDA and I mean, I guess not CDC, but all that. But you know, there's a lot of distrust with me with some of those deals. So that doesn't necessarily mean it's golden. But I mean, I wouldn't be scared to eat it. But it's just it's not the quality. I mean, you don't, you know, if we sold our beef to a big corporation feed yard and it sent it on to another corporate packer, I mean, it just goes in the mix, you know, like, you know, they'll look at it and grade it and kind of do comparable things together. But Canyon Valley Provisions, they sell grass fed. I was talking to that guy the other day, and he said, man, and I didn't know this. He said, like in a pound of hamburger meat, there's likely to be like, I'm making it up, but I think the number's bigger, like 20 different head.
A bunch.
And it'll be a broke leg, you know, they can't take a broke leg, but a crippled bull and a yearling and a cow, and and then that's where you get mixed and matched and lose your quality. I mean, that's just, you know, talking about efficiencies. That's how they got to do it, but that's not how I have to do it. You know, it's going to be that one. I mean, I don't even mix the animals I have. It's that animal's hamburger meat goes into one, and so it's not a fear. I wouldn't say. It's just you're really missing out on quality, and then you might be. I would say you'd probably be overpaying for something that's you know, they're labeling as organic or something, like it is to their standards, but I mean, but it's coming from a bunch of different sources that you can't go back to really know. And ask me what we do. I mean,
yeah,
I know. Me or my wife know exactly everything that happened to that animal.
Yeah,
and then we're trying to feed them. We're not 100% efficient, but we're trying to feed them everything when we go to finish them. Put them on finish ration. Everything from the ranch. That's milled wheat is the grain, and then the silage is wheat silage, and then hay that came off the ranch. And so, like I know they're like 90% of their food source to date or whatever. So
yeah. I went on a podcast in Vegas with a guy, Mike Kelly, I think maybe. We talked about rodeo. We talked about, and they could not believe that I was in town for the NFR, and so we were staying at an Airbnb, and I just went to the Walmart and got my Airbnb.
There you go.
And got my steaks at Walmart for the week at the Airbnb.
Yeah.
And they couldn't believe that I was doing that. I was like, yeah, I mean, the steak maybe not is going to cook quite as quality as the people's beef.
Yeah.
Like I got at home, but I'm not scared to eat it.
Right.
Like it's not going to, you know.
I wouldn't think, I mean, I'm not going to try to scare tactic anybody.
Yeah, there's just a balance between the two, you know, like it's just like anything. There's just a quality that comes with something that it's like buying a belt or, you know, a belt buckle from Leroy who made it by hand as opposed to going into Cavender's and getting it. Like this belt's going to keep your pants up the same, but I just rather have the handmade belt by my brother.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask something else. Quality. Oh, the all natural route. Like how do you feel about that, and like not implanting, and you know the impact that might have on efficiency versus what people are wanting? Was there a side of you that
like Laura was wanting to do grass fed and all natural, and then I was like really against that. I just, man, I'm not into. My perspective is that all of that is a marketing scam from someone in California or Austin or Denver or somewhere, and it's just a bunch of BS, and they're just putting a cool label on the same thing. And and so I was against anything quote unquote healthy, basically. And then anyway, but if you were just like, hey, I butchered our yearling, or I shot this deer, whatever, cut the steak off right here in front of you, hand you a steak, would you like it? I would much rather that, which happens to be organic and all the things that I don't like those buzzwords, because I feel like they're misled marketing sometimes, or that you have to subscribe to the Green New Deal to be on board with it. But yeah, just something straight. I mean, I do like the idea of organic stuff, just straight from your garden, straight from the ranch.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. And it took me a bit to get on board, and then, but that goes back to the coming from direct from the guy. Like if I go to, what's the place in Fort Worth that's got not Central Market, but
Whole Foods.
Yeah, something like that. Am I buying something good, or are they just really good at labeling stuff?
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say like from Dale Brisby.
Yeah.
At Winnebago. I don't know where or what.
Yeah, it's crazy the argument, talking about green.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I mean, you and I both know feed conversion, for instance. Like what's an industry average in the feedlot, like without the implant, is going to be like 7.5 pounds of feed to 1 pound of gain, as opposed to something implanted. It's going to be like 5.5.
Yeah.
So if you're talking 2 pounds of feed, well, they're going to eat. If you want them to gain 3 pounds that day, so if they go the 7 pound route, that's 21 pounds. If you go the 5 pound route with the implanted, that's 15. So that one calf is eating 6 pounds less that day to gain the same amount of weight, the implanted one. And if there's 100 in the pen, that's 600 pounds in one day less that you had to feed those calves.
Mm-hmm.
Just on 100.
Mm-hmm.
If it's 1,000, that's 6,000.
Right.
And so on and so forth. And so, like, all right, do you want to be organic or do you want to be green?
Yeah.
And but then it's hard to have that conversation with people because.
Yeah, I would say it's safe to implant them, but I would prefer to not have it.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with our deal. I mean, it's obviously we're about the feed efficiencies and stuff, but I mean, it comes down to for what we're selling, for the quality of the deal, and just beef.
Yeah. I guess for me,
no add-ons.
I'm trying to just. It just goes back to the belt thing, like if I'm at the Airbnb in Vegas, I don't mind, a steak from Walmart. If I'm at my house and I can get, I don't feel like either one should really be demonized.
Yeah.
But
yeah, like if you're on a certain health kick or whatever, if you're doing no sugar or fresh ground wheat or whatever, well, to not eat a burger in town because it's not. I mean, go ahead and have the burger. You need some food in your belly is number one, and it's not the ideal, but like when you go home, do it right. But it's not gonna hurt you to have something.
Yeah,
get some Sonic.
Get some Sonic every now and then. Well, then, all right, now I'm going back to being super fancy.
Don't get drink.
Because I get nervous about the craft singles. They can't even legally call it cheese. Like a craft single. It's called a craft single. Like they can't call it cheese.
Oh, because it's so nasty.
It's not cheese.
Dang.
That's what makes me nervous about a cheeseburger in town.
Oh.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. That's just me kind of using the context clues. If you read those, you get a big old deal of craft singles. Like, look at it. Like, it don't say cheese on it.
That's what somebody was buying beef from us, and they were like, you can't buy beef unless it has a bone in it because they can't imitate a bone in imitation meat or whatever. I'm like, well, surely I can tell the difference, but I like it Don't buy it unless it's a tomahawk from us.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. I watched a reel on how they make some of the prepackaged lunch meat. Like how it'll like start as like a liquid and they'll put in powder and then it turns into a paste and then they put in some red dye to make it look
like mold.
And then they freeze it so they can cut it and now it's sliced into this lunch meat. It made me super nervous about lunch meat. I don't know. It's like the more you know, the more you know. I saw a meme the other day. It's like a 30-some-odd-year-old woman, and she's just sitting there sipping out of her cup. And it said, like, yes, in college, I did drink out of multiple red Solo cups that had a ping pong ball land in them that had been rolling on the floor for 2 hours. But now I'm afraid of tap water.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. It's probably a give and take back and forth.
That's a good, I don't know what that would be like, but that's a good analogy.
Yeah. I mean, we're all the same person, I guess. I guess maybe as the closer we get to our impending death, we begin to think about what might send us there. Is that it?
Yeah,
that's not a good way to wrap up a podcast.
No tangent on, Dale. You're right. Most food is poison.
Everybody just fall out of your chair.
Yeah.
Plastic cheese is one molecule away from plastic, though.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. Anyways.
The cheese thing freaks me out. Like, I'll eat a steak out of Walmart long before I'll eat a Kraft single.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. Well, thanks for jumping on. We'll see if this meat is super frozen. If not, and if you're hungry, I'll cook it for you.
Thank you.
Sorry. I was talking to Gage.
Yeah. Right here.
It's the people. We are the people, and you are a person. Cool. You got any life advice for us to wrap it up?
Eat beef.
Eat the people's beef.
There you go.
From thepeoplesbeef.com.
We're like Arby's. We've got the meat.
We've got the meat. You need a catchy little slogan like that.
I thought you were going to help me out. I thought that's how you're going to close it.
Okay. All right.
You haven't been studying?
Hold on. All right. Cole, you're back in.
No.
You're back in. You're back in. Cole's the idea man.
You don't want my
What
opinion?
do we have
I won't give
for
my
the
opinion.
people's beef? We the people eat the beef.
Trying to think the first line, we the people, being a sound mind. I don't know. I'll think
Four
of something.
score and 7 years ago.
Well,
Is
that's
that
a
it?
Gettysburg Address. But
For-
yeah.
For the people, by the people.
Yeah. We'll think of something.
There you go.
We'll do a round 3 with Gage Moorhouse.
Oh, great.
Like at some point.
I thought about, you said Bones no-showed you. I thought about grabbing him on the way up here.
I say, he told me he had a horse.
Yeah.
Had to go to the vet. I don't think he did.
I should have.
And it never crossed
I'm
my
shoot
mind.
Some horses jump in.
That's what you should have done. It never crossed my mind that he just didn't want to jump on until I saw him that day at Croton. And he was like, yeah, I don't know. And I was like, wait a second.
Just
You didn't have to go to La Mesa.
La Mesa?
You just no-showed me. He
Oh,
went no bones on me.
No Bones.
No, but to be honest, though, that kind of really made me want to have him on the podcast even more. Like
that-
you resisted,
Hard to get.
and I wanted you to be on, and I stuck
Yes.
with it. And then some people I get voicemails from or texts like, "Hey, I need to be on your podcast," and it's like, I don't know if you do.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, like at like on our wedding deal, there are some people that we didn't invite, and they're like, "Man, that's great, y'all got married there. That's cool." And I'm like, "Dang, I wish I'd invited them." And then there's someone else like, "I didn't get an invite. Why didn't you let me come to your wedding?" Like, I'm sure glad you didn't get one.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. That's how I feel.
Don't be pouty about it. I'm glad you didn't come.
If you want to be invited to my podcast wedding, don't send me text saying, "Let me on your pod." I'd like to have brother John Brothers on.
Oh boy.
I think he'd be good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He needs a counterpart too.
Oh, you think 2 of them?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I did that the other day with Zane and Zach. Zane Hare and Zach Peters.
Oh yeah.
Dachshund. That was it was pretty fun because they were both in South Texas at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. So, but yeah, Fro has been brought up a lot, and then you said Art Reed. I'd love to have him on.
Yeah, them together, but Fro can't hear real good, but It's kind of got to be in his environment.
Jimbo,
Mm-hmm.
his Glover, the glove, he and Brad Good brought him.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, theirs will come out tomorrow.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited
Yeah.
about that one. Yeah, it was cool. But yeah, any more, just send them my way. So, along with
Roger.
the beef. That's what we need to do. I'm going to
Along
have you
with the
on.
beef.
You're going to be a recurring
Yeah.
guest because you're going to bring me beef.
Get the fire going.
Patriotic protein.
Oh,
Patriotic protein. He's been over there scheming this whole
Patriotic.
time.
Grass-fed, freedom-led.
Oh, yeah. It's not grass finished though, but yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it came
Dude,
across grass at some point.
I want my beef grain finished.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
All right. Grain-fed, freedom-led.
Okay.
Yeah?
Kind of a double meaning, like throw some lead for your freedom.
Hey,
But-
man. Yeah. Wasn't free.
Yeah.
Boom.
Neither is the beef.
Boom. Oh,
We like our freedom like we like our beef. Wait, no.
no.
Paid in blood? Yeah, no.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. That's a little gory.
Paid for in blood.
Oh, that's bad.
This tear died for your freedom. Wait a second.
Died so you can live.
Yeah, this died. So, yeah, there you go. Yeah, some died so that you can live, just like this steer.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Cool.
Use code Dale.
That will definitely get the right audience that we want.
We need
That'll
a-
weed out everybody.
Do you think we can get a use code Dale on? We need a Dale code
Yeah.
on there on the People's Beef.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Every
yeah.
time they use code Dale, it's not even for a
they
discount.
get a free sticker.
Yeah. Or just Dale gets a steak.
Hey,
Hey.
now you're on to something.
Wait.
Now you're
What's
on
in
to
it for me?
What the order? You get the order.
Oh yeah, I get.
Yeah,
the
but
box
it
up of
might be a
steak
wash.
for you.
Because every steak you sell, you got to give one to me, so it's kind of a wash.
Weird way to say thanks for being on the podcast, but
Oh,
all right.
sorry. I got so bored I came to get on the podcast.
Yeah, that's how bored you are. You're not only listening to the podcast, you're showing up to be in them. That's how bored you are, and that's how desperate we are. All right, we're going to get off of here because we keep saying mean things to each other. All right, you guys check out thepeoplesbeef.com. Pow, pow, and on to the next one.